indicating he's going right into the 4-foot. I guess he got burnt against Russ in the round robin play, so he's going to be a little more cautious in this game. And you get down to the final game, you don't take quite as many chances as the round robin, because in round robin play, you know you still have another life if you happen to lose that game.
Well, there's certainly no tomorrow here. The winner goes on, and the loser enjoys a great run. There we are from Neil Harrison, right to the top of the 4-foot, and the game is on. Russ Howard indicating he'd like it removed.
Well, that shot that Eddie made last night was just likely one of the best clutch shots you'll ever see in curling, to bail out of a problem he was in and come up with the win.
Well, he's sure got a lot of experience and a lot of talent here, Ted. If you recall the tape from their game up in Trenton that we studied before, looking at the commentary here for the Brier, was an absolute classic curling game. And I think it almost rivaled the two we saw yesterday.
Well, I thought I'd never see another performance like that one in Trenton, but I'm sure that game in that Harris game in the tiebreaker equaled that.
Here's the second rock for Neil Harrison. It was interesting. I was looking forward to the game in the round robin, but it ended early with Russ Howard being the winner. They got up on Eddie, and he conceded after 6 ends. But if we remember going back to the Skins game, it was Eddie Werenich.
So they've evened it out this year.
I think so, and I don't recall any Bonspiel plays between the two of them, Ted.
No, they could have met, but I am not sure on that point.
Second shot here for Ken McDermott. Ted, I've been impressed with the play of Ken McDermott all week. I thought he played extremely well.
Yes, it has to be a little nerve-wracking for a new player to be playing on a World Championship team, and I think he's done an excellent job filling the spot that was vacant from Wayne Maddaugh going with his own team.
That's a tough spot to fill too, Ted, and although I'm impressed with his play and his real enthusiasm for the game. First shot for Pat Perreault. Pat's another experienced player, Ted, having played with Al Hackner at one time. Am I correct?
Yes, he's two-time world champion too. Once with Al Hackner and once with Eddie Werenich. So 85 Brier in Moncton. He beat Pat Ryan, I think it was, in the final game.
And that was on one of those, the shot I think people remember in curling. Here's Peter Corner, moved up from lead last year. I wonder, Ted, would that be quite an adjustment for him to change positions like that?
Well, it's certainly tough to fill Wayne Maddaugh's spot on that team. There's likely no better curler in the game, with the exception maybe of Pat Ryan, that can play the hit shots like Wayne Maddaugh does. So it's certainly a tough job, and Peter was certainly an excellent lead on that team. I think he made everything for Russ.
It's an interesting move, looking for a new lead and moving somebody instead of filling the position. Very interesting.
I thought yesterday Eddie started to come to life. I thought all week he was struggling with his game, and yesterday, when the chips are on the line, I guess he decided it's time to start to play. So he had a great day yesterday, beating Mike Harris and also Wayne Maddaugh.
Yeah, and he had a last-end victory over Kirk Ziola in the morning, so he had quite a day yesterday. I'm sure their team slept last night. John Kawaja ready to throw his first rock. Ted, I imagine we're looking at a blank end here unless something disastrous strikes.
Yeah, they're going to feel another out. Eddie's not going to take too many chances without last rock. This game's, do or die, so...
Well, we only had one steal of a point last night, and that was on a fantastic shot by Ed Werenich in the 10th end for a 6-4 victory. So I would imagine we'll be looking at something like that again today.
This is similar to the end that they played last night in the semifinals. They kept it clean, and then the second end, they got into mixing it up a little more.
First shot for Glenn Howard. I think when it comes to combinations, Ted, Russ and Glenn Howard have to be one of the best pairs of curlers that work together that we've ever seen.
Well, they're certainly a great 1-2 combination, and they know one another, and curled so many years together. And you know, they've 24 Tankard appearances between the two of them. So,
wow. John Kawaja going for a rock in the corner. We finally got a roll and a change of position. I didn't get a chance to talk to Shorty, but I talked to some of the other fellows. They haven't done anything different today on the ice. Ted, it should be about the same as it's been all week, running about 28.5 seconds from the back of the rings to T-line touchdown, or stop, I should say.
yeah, the ice conditions look excellent. You can't see any prostate there. And outside in, I think we're getting just about 2.5 foot draw.
Sweeping on it all the way. It's moving a little bit here. Catches the corner and rolls right out of the rings. That one actually moved, Ted.
Seemed to move a bit. Maybe it was a little down weight on that.
Russ said yesterday they were out matching rocks, trying to get a set that were all the same.
Yeah, they had time to practice yesterday after the tiebreaker game, I guess it was.
I don't care how long you curl. I guess everybody's really trying to make sure the rocks are the same, and a different team would probably select a different set of 8 rocks. Here's the wrench, Eddie Werenich. I think you're right, Ted. During the week, some games they were on and off, but yesterday he just came alive. I guess the money's on the table, and he's not going to fool.
Well, he's a great money player. He's proved that in the Skins game with four championships in the Skins. And a lot of money to boot.
He'll be buying their TSN before long. And as always, a very entertaining group of curlers we've got out here, too. The fans will always enjoy it. Right to the button for Eddie Werenich to start it off.
Well, when Eddie has draw weight, you can expect he's going to put up a heck of a fight.
Well, Ted, I did an informal poll amongst all the volunteers who've been here for the week. We have one of them right by us, but he won't give us his answer over the tape. But people were tending to think maybe Russ Howard by the poll. But the other feeling was the longer and the closer the game stays, you go with Eddie. So more people were favoring Howard today, but I think Eddie's the sentimental favorite in the stand. So it's going to be interesting to see if the predictions are correct.
Howard has certainly has represented Ontario in the last 4 years in the Brier, so you have to give him a bit of a favorite position.
Well, there's an old proverb, you go with the champion until somebody beats him, so we'll have a look. Nice roll by Russ and changed the shot a bit. I noticed again here, Ted, like we did last night, very little ice taken on this inside-out shot.
Yeah, it seems to be running about the same. That's exactly where they had the broom in that semifinal game for this out-turn.
Yeah, and one of them just caught the corner, so it doesn't move a great deal there. And guess what turn we're playing?
He's thrown a couple out-turns already, so... looks like it's got nice weight, nice controlled weight, so... We'll certainly be looking for the blank on this end.
Hit, roll right to the button and make it as hard for Russ Howard to peel as you can. So I guess we're going to go with an in-turn peel here.
I don't think Russ has any preference. He throws both turns exceptionally well.
Well, I think this is what we kind of expected, Ted, in the first end. Not a short rock. What about the second end now? You're Eddie Werenich. Do you try the short one, or do you go with this for another end?
Well, it'll be interesting, but I imagine Eddie might go short and try and get something going. Be nice to steal a point on the even end.
Sweeping it from the moment he left his hands. You want to make sure they roll out. And they didn't. Caught it right on the nose. I don't think Russ was playing that, Ted. That's for certain.
Well, it's certainly better than missing the rock completely, so.
Yeah, that's it. And how many times have some of us done that? Oh. So after one end, Russ Howard with a takeout of an Eddie Werenich stone on the 4-foot ring leads Ed Werenich 1-0, and last rock passes over to Ed Werenich. Russ Howard indicating he wants it in the 8-foot ring, so he's playing in the rings too, Ted.
Well, they're cautious, as you say. There's certainly no tomorrow for these teams, so you can put on a bit of more performance in round robin play and more spectacular type of curling, but when it's for all the marbles, I think you have to just play a little bit cautious.
Well, it's every curler's dream, Ted, to have a Purple Heart, and this is what they're playing for. So I would imagine, even though they've all been there before many times, there's also a little personal rivalry here that, you know, these are two great teams, and they don't want to, don't want to be blown out of a game, so they're not going to take chances.
Well,
Eddie Werenich going for the corner, Ted.
Eddie would certainly like to get back. You know, he hasn't been back in the Brier since 1990, so and he's starting to get up there in age. He'll be getting close to senior age soon.
He may be the first guy to win the senior championship in the Brier in the same year if he keeps on going.
That could happen. He's sure done a lot of curling this year.
Wow, I guess so. 14 games in the Canadian Mixed Championship, plus the regional and zone and regional play, plus going to the challenge round and having to go down to the B side and
winning that
one.
Plus,
and he's gone through the tiebreaker and the semifinal here. So.
Plus, they've played a cash bill likely every weekend since 1st of October, so they've come up with $90,000 in cash winnings.
Behind the guard. I don't think Eddie wanted that one short, the yellow one. Do you, Ted?
He indicated in the rings, I think, or he indicated short, didn't he?
I thought he indicated the rings. Ken McDermott behind the guard, fully into the 8-foot, and a good half of the stone is buried. Hack weight from Neil Harrison.
Neil had a knee operation a year or so ago. Last year he was sliding flat-footed. I see him back into a bit of a tuck delivery again.
Well, when you've won, you've been in the Brier, how many times and won a world championship, I guess you go back to what works.
That's right.
A nice hit, and roll over to the side, removing the stone. And Glenn Howard doesn't take any time in asking Peter Corner to put it right back. I've been waiting all week to see Peter Corner draw the corner here. Fun.
That's what he did when he played lead. Corner guard.
Corner guard.
That's where the name came from.
Yeah, probably invented it. Awfully nice curler. Very steady.
Well, he comes from a curling family. His father played in a couple of Ontario tankards, so...
Seems to be staying out a bit. Right to the button, but just about fully open. It's just touching the center line while the guard is a little bit to the left-hand side of center. Here's Pat Perot. I'm glad to see that we do have some tradition left in the game, Ted, and that a lot of them slide with corned. They must be awful hard to buy anymore.
Yeah, they're getting scarce, that's for sure.
Some of the ones people great looking rock here. By the we just touched the guard. Slips through the rings.
I think those corn brooms they're sliding with, they've had for a few years. It looks like we have a full house here today. Standing room. All the seats are filled.
And the upper track is just full of people enjoying the game. That's a good spot to get a view from, Ted. You get a real nice angle on it. And you're so close in this arena, it really feels like you're part of the game. Peter Corner trying to put a cap on that one on the forefoot.
Sounds like Russ has his voice in good shape for this game.
Well, he said
had a
last
chance
night
to
he figured
rest
he
it.
had about one more game left, and then he would take a rest. You got to get in the game. Can't help it. Here's Pat Perot. Peter Corner throwing a nice guard up front. Pat Perot trying to remove it. Right on.
They look like they're pretty close to the double.
Oh, very close. But
Feathered
not
by
quite
it.
close enough. They do end up with a stone counting in the front of the 12-foot ring.
Russ will try and remove that, possibly move back and cover the one on the 4-foot. Can't take a chance on leaving those biters around. And
well, not the way Eddie's been shooting in the last few games. As you said the other day, they'll draw around the ashtray. So we've seen some big ones, great shots.
yeah, I think they were using the ashtray in that Harris game.
Yeah, 3 of them are just on the 12-foot ring at the back of the, hanging on biters and guard them. Almost a jam. In that Harris game, we had 3 rocks, wasn't it, Ted? And they were drawing behind a stone that hardly touched the rings, almost at the tee line, and they made every one of them.
Oh. Just incredible shooting.
So no roll on that, Ted, and we also opened the port up.
Well, yeah, a hit and roll by Kawaja here could certainly set up a deuce.
It was close to a jam. Here's John, steady and a real competitor. The hit, the roll. Still in play, but right out in the back of the 12-foot for John Kawaja. Russ Howard isn't going to take any chances. It's going to leave. Second shot for Glenn here.
It's amazing how Ed Werenich sets up these ends. They played all out turns in the first end, and going into the second end, he's got the rocks in the position of playing all out turns in the second end.
The hit, the roll across the back of the rings, and right out of play. So Ed Werenich has a chance to get a stone in play here.
I think you got to go around the center one, don't you? That's an out. Yeah.
I thought he might have tried an in-turn going around that yellow rock that's out in front.
That's 2 shots, by the way, Ted, from Glenn Howard that they hit and rolled out. One in the first end and one in the second there. I heard John say, well, you got to go around the center one, so I think they figured that was the play. And look at this, right to the button. And about 2/3 of the
That's
stone is
certainly a
buried.
great draw by John Kawaja. You find vices that can make those types of draws. Sure sets up the end for the skip.
Boy, doesn't it? If you can come up with something like that, it makes it difficult.
Joe wants to make sure you're watching these shots.
Well, I've been told I'm supposed to send them these tapes with editing judiciously, you know.
All he'll be doing is throwing guards all next year.
Yeah, we have a photograph of the famous Werenich shot, you know. It says if you want to earn your money, this is how you do it. Here's Glenn Howard trying to go after the Werenich shot. Excuse me, Russ Howard. First stone going after the Werenich shot. On the butt.
Well, Russ has had 13 Tankard appearances, 8 prior appearances,
Right
and
on
2
this
world.
one all the way, Ted. Really on it. And then right off. By the guard by a couple of inches. Up to the rock and just sits there.
Well, it's just a great shot to counteract that one of Quadge's.
An interesting angle there, Ted, on those 2 stones. And here we go looking again. Which one?
It looks like yellow could be shot up there. So if it is, Eddie might have to just put a guard on this rock.
How many times, Ted, in this tankard have we had people looking at shots like that where they've been so close? Very little between them.
Well, they certainly use the 4-foot most of the time, and not much of the play gets out in the 12-foot anymore with the three guard zone rule. Yeah, Ken McDermott's had 4 Tankard appearances. He played with Bob Fredosa for a few years.
Yeah, I thought he had played him. I believe we played Bob Fredosa in the Ontario Silver Tankard a few years back, and I think he was playing with them then. I thought I had played against him before, but I couldn't think of. Interesting thing, the other skip on that pair was Wayne Middaugh, so.
It's hard to believe 35 Purple Hearts on one sheet.
Yeah, and 2, 4, 6. How many world championships, Ted? It's in the teens.
Ten world championships out there.
Here's Ed Werenich playing the out turn.
Is this a recording? Taking a long time to come off that line.
No sweeping. It's close. Yep, no. Onto the blue stone. Taps it back into the yellow one. Leaving the Howard rock a shot.
Well, Eddie must have figured Russ was shot, or he'd likely played the guard on that rock. It was a pretty tough shot to get over the top of that rock to remove it.
Second end, and we've already got an interesting situation going. 6 stones in play, and Russ Howard is shot. 2 stones left to play. Last rock advantage belongs to Ed Werenich.
What would you do in this situation?
Me?
Play a guard, or try and move that yellow rock through the rings and a little bit of a roll? Knowing Russ, he doesn't mind playing the difficult shot.
He'll go after it. And knowing the team you're playing, too, you just can't leave them an opportunity here. The slightest opportunity, and people will take advantage of it. You tend to think from, well, how would I play this if I were playing a club game? But it's a lot different playing this game and playing this team. I think Russ has to try that, even if he comes down and sort of sits around in there. It might, keep Eddie from play raise on it. I'm not going to second guess them, Ted. When I have 7 Purple Hearts on my sweater, I'll make predictions. That was a quote. Remember when we were doing this, they made Mike Hiltz, and they said, do you want us to put your name up there in some of your curling records? And I said, you've got 2 double world champions on the ice, and you want to put my record up on the screen? No, thank you. Here's Russ Howard. It looks like we're going with the guard, Ted.
Well, you know when you've beat Mike Harris and Wayne Madaw on the same day, you've had a pretty good day of curling.
And Kirk Soyola. No slouch of the team either. So the guards put up the long guard by Russ Howard. Three stones in the 4-foot ring counting, but of course the shot belongs to Russ Howard. Okay, Ted, we'll turn the tables. What do you do here?
Well, Eddie's seeing if there's a hole there that he can get in and tap that blue back. If he can get through there, he can likely count one, maybe.
Well, I think he figures there's a hole on, guess what, the outturn side. to put his yellow back onto the blue and move it back.
I don't think he looks at the intern side too often.
I am surprised that we aren't on that side of the sheet. I think we will be sooner or later.
Well, after that shot he made last night, I think he's capable of making anything, don't you?
Yeah, that was, and under that much pressure. I mean,
yeah, it's different if it was in the first end, but as a game winner.
The other thing that people, I think, tend to forget is how close Wayne Madaw came to duplicating it coming from the intern side last night. He wasn't far off it and didn't even have as much angle.
Yeah, if that rock that Wayne used was up a foot closer to the front rings, he'd likely have made that shot.
Sweeping it all the way. Will it get by the front guard? It's by it. Paper thin by it. Here we go. Onto the yellow one. Onto the blue one. And it's tight. What a shot. Already. Here we go. This is what the crowd came to see, Ted.
For some reason, there doesn't seem to be a lot of action with on these rocks. When they hit, they seem to grind in a bit.
Yeah, well, also,
we've noticed that all week.
With such fast ice, though, Ted, we're not playing heavyweight when you get there. You don't have a lot of momentum to take off the shot. You know, but running a good 2 seconds faster than our own club. It's quick. I see Ken McDermott up first, so that means that Russ Howard was shot.
Well, Russ will likely come right in the rings now. He's up 2, and he wants to get the play in the rings. Try and keep it as simple as possible.
So we have a steal of 1 point in the second end for Russ Howard at Penetang for a 2-0 lead over Ed Werenich at Avonlea. That was awful close, Ted.
But you can be assured that you're going to see a lot of rocks in play this end.
I think so. I think the game is on.
That's a poor rock. It's certainly a rock that Eddie will use later in the end.
I heard Ken say, sorry, guys. He didn't mean to be short. They wanted that one in.
That's almost like giving the other team 9 rocks and you're playing with 7.
Well, Eddie Werenich going to come in behind it and real quick.
I think he'll go the other side to start it off. Throw the corner out.
I thought he'd indicated behind it there. Now we've got 2 guards in play.
This way they can't remove either of those rocks from play.
Russ is going right in behind and take away the advantage of that short stone. Ken McDermott.
I imagine Ken's a little nervous, not used to this type of competition. Playing in 4 tankards, but never in the finals.
Yeah, it's. I know I would be, at least for a while. Ken's asking the rock to curl. He's really in the game, and weight was wanted, but it just didn't come far enough. The rock's exposed. Eddie Werenich looking for a hit in the roll behind cover. Neil Harrison trying to get a roll. Hits half the shot, rolls over under cover. Ted, can you see from your side of the desk, is there any part of that rock exposed, or is it fully buried?
Looks like you might see a quarter of it.
Russ going up to remove the guard. Or is he playing the straight back here?
Looks like he's just playing the peel. Seems to be taking quite a bit of ice for that.
Straight back and rolls over. Well,
I don't know if that's what he called, but
I'm sure they won't give it back. And Ed looking for Pat Perot to come down and roll the opposite way. Need some cover on the center line, behind cover.
just another great roll by Pat Perot.
So Russ will go up and likely trying to play the straight back again.
Here's Peter Corner. Oh, this is a straight back.
Two great straight backs.
He's mad he didn't stay on that.
Ted, as we've said several times here, nothing is safe out here anymore. Here comes Pat Perot quietly, trying to come to the corner. We're actually going to get a draw away from the forefoot, Ted. Here we go. A little light, does add another guard to play.
I think you might see Russ come right in behind that. But I could be wrong again.
Looking at the raise, I think, Ted. Touch it.
The danger.
Oh, interesting.
You can raise that anywhere, though.
If he peels it, it still leaves the two rocks out in front, but he's worried that Eddie might. It's a pretty easy raise. You can raise at either angle. And
of course, Eddie wouldn't do that, would he?
it's like they had that in his mind for a couple minutes now.
Yeah. Orange, doesn't matter. What do you like?
Don't care.
That's why they pay the skips the big bucks to make these decisions.
You make the decision, eh? After all that, where do we eat dinner, eh? Here's Glenn Howard. It looks like they're going to try to go around the guard.
Wow, we're in the camp. Wow.
They've said it's a lot of weight coming down.
Right on. Never.
Trifle heavy, maybe.
The movement seems to start about the hog line, and you get quite a bit of movement right at the finish.
Well, if that's heavy, Ted, I'll throw those shots home and light.
It's not what we call heavy, is it?
No.
That's when they go through the rings.
Eddie's going to play the raise. No. John Kawan just says, come around it.
We got to get shot, Rod. Going around. You don't like the tap? Don't mind the tap. Just make sure we roll to the other side of the line, that's all.
sit on top of it. And here's John Kawaja.
John doesn't take a lot of time.
No, make up your mind and play it.
If I throw a rock, I have about 14 checkpoints, so I can't throw it that quickly.
Right up. Right up. Right up.
It's coming over center, coming right up to it. And right on top of it. Not a broom laid to it. I think the boys came to play, Ted.
Well, he saved the sweepers on that shot.
Yeah.
That just settled in there beautifully. A lot of movement at the
You might as well
end.
picked it up and carried it down there. Great stone. Well, you've got two great thirds here with John Kawaja and Glenn Howard throwing. This should be interesting, right down on top of that one.
Tighter. No line. No. Heavy. Right up. Gotta be light. Right up. We're okay. No. No.
Light. Oh,
Right up. Oh. Right. Don't
it's
look
moving.
at it.
And right on top of it, another one that hit the sweeper. Oh. I don't know, Ted. I'm going to have copies of these tapes, but I'll be seeing some of these shots in my dreams for a long time. Great shooting. So what's the strategy here, Ted? Have you got to move them? What are you trying to come up with when you finish?
Well, he's certainly got to shake them up a little bit and give them a little bit of room.
Right on it all the way. Sweepers
Eddie's
are right on it.
certainly looking for try and score two this end. He can't afford a steal.
Right on it. It's close to the guard. It's close to the guard. Right by the guard paper. Thin. Touches the one on the button. Moves it over. Russ Howard still shot, but Eddie Wernich's got two full in the 4-foot behind a guard. And Russ wants another one in there.
Well, Russ certainly has to be careful because, as you know, these fellas can play those raised back, across the house, whatever. So it's never safe.
No.
And there's two nice Yellowstones sitting right full in the 4-foot.
Yeah, and you can rest assured that when the opportunity is there to go for a couple of points, these teams will go for them. Quite a show coming on here. Here's Glenn Howard trying to put, Russ's first shot, and he's trying to come right down on either the top of the 4-foot or right into the other stone on the button.
Well, John couldn't have come around that rock any thinner. It was paper thin.
Stay with it. Where's it? Right here. Oh, don't bump it. High. Great. High. Whoa. No. Great shot.
And right where he wanted it and touching the yellow stone. I think we're in for quite an afternoon, Ted, but Ed Werenich's got to be pretty careful here. He's 2 points down already. He pretty well has to score this end.
Well, we just saw 4 or 5 just perfect shots. The freeze, the angle freeze. They sure make that shot look pretty simple today.
That's for sure. And I think you've made a point. Not only are we playing a freeze, but the exact angle they want them frozen at. They play for such a precise portion of the stone. Fascinating to watch. Well, we've got a telestrator problem here now, Ted. Where's Don Duguid when we need him?
Well, the front end's coming down. They're going to give a little advice. See if they'll cross the hog line where they're not supposed to be in. Whoop, the umpire official's taking a peek at it. The lead in the second, they're not supposed to be inside the hog line when they're discussing these shots, but they sneak in occasionally, and the head official has to come out and indicate to move back. So
there's an awful lot riding, Ted, on these shots, so I don't blame him for wanting to have a good look and know what you're doing.
well, it looks like Ed's playing the straight back raise on his own rock on the center line.
No, it's just...
See if he can open this up a little bit.
It'll be an interesting one. Pushes the Howard rock off the button, and he sits too.
An easy game, eh?
Good afternoon, people. We're still here to play. The whole end has changed here, Ted, from Russ Howard sitting a couple to Eddie Werenich sitting a couple, and Russ Howard's got a real dilemma. I think if he hits that blue one, Ted, I don't think he can move both of them. He'd leave Eddie shot, wouldn't he? Don't think he
It
can move
looks
both
like it. No, Eddie certainly has to count this end, and I don't see any way that he's not going to at least get his one. Eddie'd certainly like to get two here to tie the game up.
Of course, we've said that before, and all of a sudden he gets...
We're afraid to make a comment. They prove you wrong too many times.
So this game is developing into one, Ted, like that tape we witnessed, and I sure hope so, because just a classic exhibition of curling precision. 7 stones in play. Eddie Werenich with 2 yellow stones in the 4-foot ring, and they're surrounded in a sandwich by 2 Howard counters, 1 in the 4-foot, 1 just off, and 3 guards out in front.
I think Russ's maybe best shot is just to try and promote that blue rock a foot or two. But it looks like he's elected to play a soft hit on that shot. And
I'm wondering if the angle's there to spill both of them.
he likely wants to maybe hit and go so he doesn't set up a double. You know, if you throw the draw, I guess you could set up the double, the blue, and Eddie could nose them and split them out and get his 2 that way. Possibly 3.
There's sure a lot of possibilities. Russ Howard, last rock of the 3rd end.
Boy, when Russ makes up his mind, he doesn't take long getting rid of the rock.
We have a runner coming here. I'm wondering, did he get shot, Stone?
I'm not sure if he's shot, but his blue shooter's laying out in the open, so Eddie certainly have a shot at a 2-end here. It's going to be
it looks like it's from the television angle, Ted, that it's shot, so he's pretty well got to play it.
An in-turn tap back, so Eddie certainly it's a big 2 for Eddie at this point of the game.
That would tie the game up. I don't think you dare let Russ Howard get 3 points up on you, Ted. That could be
well, that's
disaster.
Certainly of course you behind the 8 ball, wouldn't it?
We thought that yesterday against Mike Harris when he got 4 in the 1st end, and it changed pretty quickly. He's hanging out some. Now starting to move.
Could be a little warm on this one, but starting to move now.
Now it's coming.
Neil puts his arm up before it hits.
Right.
They got a
2-point for Ed Werenich. So at the end of 3 ends, Ted, we're all tied up at 2-2, and I think this game's going to live up to the reputation we expect.
That's right.
We have a guest here.
Time to go home. Come back for the night.
Alternate from now on.
What is this, like a second end or something?
Third, fourth end coming up. Yeah, they'll be sweeping into the 2 ends.
We have a guest here, and that's Fred Leduc, one of the chairmen of the committee here during the Tankard, and the gentleman looking after a lot of the construction, and let's put it this way, just about everything you could think of during the Tankard. Fred, again, thank you very much, and just a few comments from yourself. How have things gone this week? And you must be finally getting a little rest.
I finally got 8 hours straight through sleep last night. It's kind of nice.
That's kind of a strange occurrence during the week. Fred, any unusual things happen other than having to add extra heaters to the curling club there?
Oh, when they first fired up the Kingston on Tuesday, the blowing breakers left, right, and center, they had to do some cutbacks and eliminate some pieces of equipment that we had that were drawing power, cut back the amperage draw, like the entire wire already upstairs, which we are using, so we killed that. It's one of those things you don't know until you find out the fire up all the crock pots and stuff like that the kitchen needs. But it's been interesting. Amazing the things you get called for.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Fred, you're one of those people who can be the jack of all trades and know the solution for it. I was impressed by a lot of the things at the start where just purchasing of wood, where it was going afterwards, where table was coming from, trucks. A lot of thanks goes out to you for a massive effort, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, it's not just me. I'm just the name of the top of the list. There's super people with me. And the tables net were Freddie Butler with the lounge. He was keeping with that through the week there. The running around we've been doing, like from a maintenance standpoint. Rich Waller wasn't even on my committee, and he's been like my little pup. In fact, one of the jokes we've had now, we've had what we call the all-left team.
Yeah. Fred won on the radio, and Fred too. It's been fantastic, Fred. But thank you again very, very much. A lot of comments from the spectators, from the players, from the people on the committees and things. Just an awful lot of work was done, and a chance to say thank you and make sure it's on the tape and on the record here.
Well, an interesting request we had this morning, and we get some real weird ones. I got a call this morning from the OCA room at home, and hadn't been called all week. Walked into the room, and what they wanted was a gate. I guess they were talking to Eddie before the game, and Eddie and Russ were saying they weren't going to play unless we gave them the share of the gate, so we built them a gate. We presented it to them before the game.
I love it.
It's down behind sheet C there where they're playing there. John's going to give it to them after the game.
So you get the gate. Oh, I'm telling. Ted, we have an interesting end brewing here. We have 3 guards out in front of the rings, and Eddie, was he looking for a 4th one there?
Yeah, it looks like they're throwing another short one up the center line, trying to control the center line. Eddie'd like to steal a point here naturally.
Well, Fred, it's nice to see you wearing a jacket and tie today, and you're sort of out of construction clothes until the end of the game. Is that the story? Or?
Yeah, I'm tired of playing the Superman at the phone booth. I'd like to definitely publicly thank the security people we've had. Grant and his crew has just been sensational, both here and over at the hotel. There's been nothing but praise from everybody around the situation. Getting people.
Yes, and they've been here at all hours of the day and out in the weather and things too, Fred. There's a massive number of people involved in this effort.
So you have to break this down right after the game and clear everything out of this arena, do you?
Yeah. Whitby, they got a truck coming in. Same thing we had to do in St. Thomas last year. And as soon as the opening closing ceremonies are finished, about a half hour later, we'll start shooting stuff. Get Whitby, what's part of the OCA kit loaded up so they can get out of the way. And we won't go through the night tonight on work night until I start losing volunteers. We'll start on our own lounge over there tomorrow. I hope to have throwing back at KCC by Thursday. So we got to get Roddy
2 days to fix the ice up, and that sure was the biggest crowd I've ever seen in the Kingston Curling Club in my 30-some years at the club. So
here's
a great event.
Quite a draw by Pat Perot behind cover and right on the top of the 4-foot. We're right at it again, Ted. Here we go. Fred, again, thanks very much for coming up and joining us. Thanks for your time and your effort. I don't know what else to say. I've been amazed all week at what's been done. And we'll sneak home and put the jeans on and do our bit if we can.
Hey, Eddie's going to be upset.
You have to show me what a hammer looks like.
You're supposed to know, Ted. You're a skip. Great shot coming by there. Great shot. And a roll under cover, and Russ Howard has 2 counters in. This end is starting to build again, Ted. There's a little danger for Eddie brewing here, Ted, of perhaps Russ getting more than one.
Well, there's certainly, it's always a risk when you play this type of end without last rock. And
John Kawaja looking for the freeze on the stone at the back of the rings.
I think they're coming in behind again.
John has said if we freeze, are we shot?
Oh, on the back one, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They're going to take her back. Right on the button. And it's buried.
I don't think anything's buried in this league. They just look buried to us.
Yeah.
They're buried if you and I were throwing them.
Yeah. So Glenn Howard trying to come down with the in-turn. Move that Ed Werenich shot on the button.
Well, Glenn's just a master of this type of shot. He made so many of them for Russ. He sure sets up a lot of ends for Russ.
Close on the guard, by about 3 inches. Moves the stone off the button, rolls over to the side and rolls out of the rings, leaving the 2 counters there. And John Kawaja is going to have to put it right back.
Well, John wants to get it back to that back one. Doesn't matter how close you come around the guard and the draws. If you don't have it frozen to something, in this league, I guess it doesn't mean a lot. So it looks like he has better weight for the freeze right now.
It's deep. It's not lined up. It's going to touch the side. It's rolled off the counter at the back. And I'm not sure if he's second shot, but the Russ Howard counter on the left-hand side of the rings behind the guard is shot stone. So at best, Russ Howard's lying 1, or excuse me, at the worst he's lying 1, the best 2.
Yeah, they indicate it 2, so that was unfortunate for John. He was just a shade heavy with that freeze.
Didn't seem to turn too much at the end, too, Ted. It didn't come off that center line.
No, just that little extra weight. They don't move as much as a cold draw. But
Russ Howard looking to put something right on the full 12 top 8-foot ring and cut off access to the button. Good-looking stone coming here. Top of the 4-foot. Was that a little deeper than they wanted?
I think they wanted it up in the top of the 8 so that Eddie couldn't hit and roll off this.
There's a double there, Ted, I think. Have we not got
I think you'll see Eddie just try and push this through and try and get the roll over that way. But you know, it's 3/4 covered, so
yeah, he
I
can't
don't
really
think
afford
he
to
can
play
throw
a lot of weight
on
on
this shot.
It looks different from this angle that I'm looking at, and when you see the television coverage, it's more undercover than you think. He's playing the edge of the 4-foot. And by gosh, Ted, an in-turn.
Well, I don't know if Russ decided to test this in-turn, but that's the first end we've seen. They've really been into playing the in-turn. Mind you, Eddie made a great in-turn the last end to score his 2.
And he's coming up
So
to
he
it, right by the
looks like he's
guard, by a
pretty
couple of
close.
inches. He's close. Quiet wait, hit, roll over to the other stone and hits it, and now he's behind.
Yeah. That's the danger. You know, Glenn came a little deep on that shot of his, and you know, in a normal game, you'd get away with that, but in this league, you have to be exactly where you're calling for that shot.
The only time you can do that's on last rock when somebody doesn't have anything to throw at you. So now the end is shifted around, and Eddie Werenich's got one under cover.
Well, you've seen Russ make these great shots, and
coming with a raise back, Ted.
Straight raise back, and he's using his own rock to raise it back. So
this raise back too, with the two yellow stones behind it.
If he makes this, he's certainly putting Eddie in a lot of trouble.
Back roll to the button, under cover. And Russ Howard's line 3.
That's certainly a big shot for Russ. It puts Eddie under the gun. If he rolls it another 3 or 4 inches, Eddie doesn't have anything there. Eddie might be playing this second shot off and trying to roll for second shot. I think he's trying to play the freeze on top of that and cut down the rinks, make it tough for Russ to score his 2 points. I think Eddie would like to get out of this end by just losing a single point here at this time.
It's starting to loom like the possibilities of more than one, and maybe even a 3. But I don't take any guesses when these guys come up with some miraculous shots.
Does the weight look a little warm, or is it?
He hasn't come off into the blue paint yet.
He can't. He certainly can't afford to bump that.
Coming now. He's going to come off it. He's touched it. Touched it and rolled.
Well, he was certainly just a little hot with that shot. He was trying to play the freeze on the blue and the 4-foot, and there looks like there's a hole there that Russ can remove that rock
yellow stone
and
looks
count
like
possibly 4.
If it looks like if the blue paint were extended, it would be inside it, and the blue one's outside it. There's a 4 looming here if he can get that rock out of there.
It certainly looks like a difficult shot, but for a guy like Russ Howard, they make these shots look pretty simple.
Ed needed about another inch or so of that.
That was a good call on John Guadja's part to change the call and get the tick and the rollover in behind some cover.
It looks pretty clear from the television angle, Ted, but from looking here, it doesn't look as open. What are your thoughts? How much of the rock can he see?
Looks like you can see, you know, a half almost. But it's the way those short rocks are lined up that makes the hole a little smaller. If he was able to come with the in-turn with it, the hole is a little larger that way.
Well, the angle's sort of the opposite to what you would like it to be, but in this case, you sort of play it like the yellow rock isn't there if you can.
Well, you can be sure he's going to be awful close with this.
Yeah, that's for sure. Russ Howard, last delivery of the 4th end. He's by the guard, by the blue one, got the yellow one out of the rings, rolls across. He's counting 3 anyway. It looks like 4 from here, Ted.
It certainly looks like a 4 end, and that certainly could be a game winner, that shot. Well, that's the danger of playing these closed ends without the hammer. You're certainly putting yourself at risk.
So this game complexion, Ted, has changed rapidly in one end from being a tie game to having Eddie Werenich 4 points down.
Well, Eddie just overthrew that draw a bit, and he certainly can't give Russ a chance to play a shot like he just made. If he can see a half or quarter of a rock, you're pretty well assured he's going to make it.
Well, I assume this stone will come into the rings. There's one of my few guesses, Ted, and I'm not making many of them.
You keep calling them like that, we're going to move you up to skip position.
No, never. Ed Werenich calling for a short stone. He's got to get something started. Ted, the idea here is to get 2 back. Am I correct?
Well, they certainly need the 2 to get started again. The game is naturally only half over, so Eddie's certainly not out of it yet, but he must score this end, and he needs a 2 badly.
We've seen Ed Werenich down 4 points, but that was in the first end the other day, and that's thrown a guard right on it, right on the center line. Russ Howard says he wants another one in behind the guard and close to the previous rock that's in the 4-foot. Here's Ken McDermott.
Well, if Howard wins this game, I'm sure Kenny McDermott will be jumping in the air a few times because he's a pretty excitable lad, eh?
Yes, and a real competitor, nice guy, and played well. Well, not only did he throw the rock, it's frozen right solid to the one in the 4-foot ring. So Eddie Werenich asking for a stone to just come up into those 2 stones on the 4-foot. A little tap back, Ted.
Well, they're 2 great shots by the lead. He's put the pressure on Eddie right away, and that's such an important position in this free guard zone rules. You have a lead that can set up the end for you.
Ed Werenich got a bit of a tap back, and Russ Howard's still lying 2, but the Werenich stone is right in line with the 2 blue ones. Do we play a freeze here, Ted, or do we
well, he might go out and peel the top off, and he'll make the end simple. He can afford to give Eddie 2, but he certainly doesn't want to give him more than 2.
And when you're playing Eddie, that's if somebody's going to find a way, Ed will. Drove it back, peeled off. Boy, that was close to hitting that Yellowstone,
yes,
Ted.
It was.
and moving things around. Ed Werenich wanting another yellow rock just to freeze up to the stone in the button. Simple shot, eh, Ted?
So they're all pretty simple, eh?
Here's Pat Perot. Freezing to stones on the 4-foot ring with your seconds rocks. Now
the rings are getting smaller, that's for sure.
We're going to see everything in this game, I'm sure. Sweeping on it now. He's got a shot at it. Looks like a good rock. Right on it. Moves it back about 6 inches. Where are those stones when you need them?
We feel it this way, we get them all.
Russ's comment says, if you peel it this way, we get them all. We may see some rocks flying here, Ted.
The top looks nice.
Any bets on a quadruple?
I'd be betting they'll make it.
I think you can get this.
I'm afraid I'd have to agree with you this week.
No, they're about 4 inches. Yeah, feel weight. Just get the top one. This goes good here.
Peel weight with the in turn, and the rocks are going to fly. Right on it from the hand.
Tight, threw it a little tight.
Yes, he did, Ted. Not only did he throw it tight,
He turned it and got it going. So
it left both Werenich shots in the rings and removed both Howard counters, and the shooter rolled to the 12-foot. And Eddie wants a rock over there. Wow.
Well, I think, Peter certainly played that lead position great, but they do miss Wayne Madaw at second level. Wayne was such a great hitter, and those shots were kind of routine for Madaw.
Here's Pat Perot coming to the 12-foot.
It's just amazing how Eddie set up those rocks. Mind you, if Peter makes that shot, it's a difference. And so right now,
But how many of us would have been in a hurry, Ted, to hit that yellow and move those two instead of putting the other one in there to try to build it?
that's right.
And I've learned something myself this week, I'll tell you that. Some interesting ways to play a rock. And now all I have to do is get out and practice about 7,000 stones and be able to throw it.
All you have to do is execute it.
Yeah.
Stop at your second here. All right. If it goes across, we'll make it that way. All right. Peel.
So Russ says for Peel weight. If they hit it and roll in front of the yellow one, fine. If it goes all the way across, they'll get the other counter. So another good strong one coming from Howard.
Well, if they hit the inside skinny, they could make the triple here.
Yes, sir. And I wouldn't bet against seeing it. A hit, roll across the rings, and move the other counter. So we have Eddie Werenich first and third shot, and Russ Howard second and fourth. And Eddie says he wants that one move and come across.
How do you want to do it?
Seems every time we have a good shot, Ed's got to have a twist with that hat.
I don't think he's used the hat. This is the first year I've seen him wearing a hat in competition.
Nothing seems to faze him. You just go at it and throw. John
Well,
Kovacic.
certainly aren't wasting a lot of time.
John's
making
looking
these
for the double.
decisions.
Hits, rolls over, and Eddie Werenich is lying three again.
Well, that end is starting to set better, the position of the rocks and that.
It's discussion time. We have another guest in here, that being Lefty McDonald. We'll have a chat with Lefty at the fifth end break, but right now we've got some action here. Ted, maybe we should ask Lefty what to do here, man.
He's the third best left-hander in this building.
Probably not worth it. There? Yeah.
Oh, we got another one here that Simon Turner, who won the All-Star League in Kingston.
All right. Whoa.
Played very well all year, that's for certain.
Hot! Hot! Break! Hot!
Hit, they're looking for a roll. Right on the nose. Ted, I would assume Ed would like to hit this now and roll to the other side.
Yeah, I think he'd like to roll across the right-hand side and spread those rocks out as much as you can.
Chance of getting his two here are pretty good. I don't think, the way they're set up on the outside too, I don't think Russ can get both of those out of there.
Well, actually, Eddie has a good shot at a three-end here, and that put him right back in the game. You think once you get that four-end, you'd can sail home, but it doesn't work out anymore.
No, and we've seen it how many times this week, Ted, where somebody's got a big end, somebody turns right around and gets one right back.
Eddie's had quite a few big ends scored on him. He had a 6-end earlier in the week, and I know 2 or 3 4-ends that he's been nailed with, but he seems to fight back and gets right back into the game.
It just seems that somebody, you think you've hit him, but you haven't hit him with a big enough hammer. Here we go.
I think he's just trying to hit and roll to the right-hand side.
Well, that's certainly a tough break for Eddie Werenich. John hit and rolled out.
John was yelling for sweeping all the way down, Ted, and Ed didn't seem to be. A little miss in communication. I don't think they figured it was going to curl quite that far.
No, Eddie didn't seem to panic on that at all. But, it sure...
That's... You just can't afford those here. You know, had that counter stay, they're looking at 3 in the end's change.
I think Eddie's laying 1-2. Does it look like 1-2 to you?
From the angle here on the camera, it looks like it. Russ is going to try to remove one of them, but it's a pretty tight shot. Lefty, I think you should be out there. I think we better throw this one with the left hand, don't you? Interesting, Ted, that he's playing this with the out turn. And Russ Howard is hit, and he's rolled right out of the rings. So Eddie's still got a counter. And they're saying put another one there. And
well, Eddie's he's looking for 3. He certainly needs 3 to get him back in the game here.
Well, of course, the real safe play here would be to split the rings and you know, set up an exchange for 2. But they're going to try everything in the book here today, I'm sure.
I think there was a situation in Trenton, maybe Lefty remembers, that Eddie was 5 down to Howard or 4 down to Howard, and he had a chance to win that game. Howard had to make a great shot. They were all fighters out around the 12-foot, and if Eddie threw his last draw, I think, a little deep, or Russ didn't have a shot.
You just never say die. So they're going to try it.
He certainly doesn't have a lot of rings to work with, and he might be better to play for the safe 2 and see if he can steal
What they're saying is if it hangs a bit, they'll sweep it by it.
Well, I think they want to come in behind it.
Harry, you can even tap it. I don't know, 10 inches.
Well, we've sure got the armchair skips a situation now to think about, Ted. Ed Werenich trying to play the in-turn out here to the 12-foot ring.
Really clean. Room. Yep, I'm good. Out!
They're going hard for weight here.
Yeah.
He's like...
Well, he covered that shot rock, so it's not a complete waste.
Russ says he's going to come around it. He could.
Well, Russ is trying to bring it in behind, make it as tough as he can for Eddie to pick up his 2 points.
Yeah, if I heard them mention the word angle freeze. I mean, if he comes in on that, it would be awful hard to remove it, and Eddie might be limited to just one. I know he wants to.
Well, Russ is usually pretty close on this type of shot. He's got great control of draw weight at all times, and he's got excellent sweeping out there.
No, we've got Russ with the intern. Got the weight. It just didn't come over as far as he thought, Ted. So Eddie should be able to get at it, I think.
I think it's tough to follow Eddie's intern on that side of the sheet. So it looked like Russ had taken a little bit too much ice.
So the chance for the deuce is still there for Ed Werenich. He's got to move this stone out of the rings, and Forrest too. This end is sure switched around, Ted. For a while it looked like Russ might steal one, and then Eddie might be looking at three. It's really been a swing.
Well, it's been an interesting end, and it's been a long end. They'll likely have to make up some time playing number 6.
It's got to move off that blue paint.
Well, the sweepers are on it. That's certainly a good sign. So
hit a little roll out of the rings, and Eddie Werenich's in for 2. Indication from Glenn Howard. So after 5 ends, it's Russ Howard of Penetang 6 and Ed Werenich of Avonlea 4. Megaphone. I notice you've been picking on me all week, Ted, and Lefty's been a good guy, because I have one to pick on Lefty with, but I wouldn't say it unless he was really mean to me. So, Lefty, again, thanks so much for your efforts. It takes a person at the head who's willing to give the time and get it started so that other people can, you know, come in and do their bit, their small part. Thanks so much, and I've enjoyed this week. I've just had a great time.
Okay,
and,
thank you very much, Ronald. Appreciate it.
That's for sure.
Take care.
The big thing is, Ted, what are we going to do next? We're going to have a Scott Tournament of Hearts or a Briar or something.
That'd be the next goal.
Well, we're right back.
You think they'd rehire us for one more appearance?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we can replace Vic Rowder, but we can try. So let's welcome everybody back to the action. Ted, Ron Walsh and Ted Brown, and this is the last half of the last game we're going to do in this Tankard. I'm going to miss it. It's been a fantastic experience, and we've got action, Ted. We had an Ed Werenich stone short. We had a stone from Ken McDermott to the back of the 4-foot. We've got a Werenich shot in front of it, and we've had the guard peeled off.
Well, certainly that forehand looms awful large right now in this game, with Russ getting the hammer back, 2 up, playing 6. But as you say, you never know. Anything can happen.
I won't bet. While we're just getting this end started, another guest up here, Mike Hiltz. Mike was working on the commentary all week with us, and Mike has been on so many jobs it isn't funny. But Mike, we asked you if you would come up and check the times, or how are they doing for time in this game?
Both teams are well within their time limit. In fact, in the first 5 ends, given 8 minutes an end that they have to play, a total of 40 minutes, both of them were under that 40-minute mark. Howard was 3 minutes extra to spare, as well as Werenich had, I think, about a minute to spare. So they're well within their time limit, and probably can take a little more time in relaxation when they need to consider some very intricate situations that might end up in the house.
Well, I'm sure we're going to see a couple. With Eddie being down, I know we're going to see some rocks in play. A guard up front, it's been peeled off, and Ed wants another one back. Mike, from the ice angle and from other things, any comments on the game so far?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what happened to that Werenich stone that seemed to give up sweeping on it there in that end. They were looking at 4. Eddie was trying to figure out a way of getting 4 to that end, and I heard Pat Perot say to John Kawaja, we don't need to be greedy. We can try and at least get our 3 here and really be back in it. But something happened to that first rock that Ed delivered. I'm not sure what it was. Or John's rock, I'm sorry, yeah.
Eddie seemed to panic on that sweeping call, and it just seemed to take off. So I don't know if it picked a bit or what.
Yeah, Kawaja put his hands up in sort of confusion. He didn't know why it seemed to overcurl on him, and of course they lost it and lost a real advantage in that end.
Big point there. If they could got their 3 there, there'd only be 1 down, and Eddie would likely gone all out for a steal here, and it would sure make a big difference in this game.
I'm waiting to see the presentation of the gate to the boys after the game. This should be interesting.
One thing I might bring up for the fans when it comes to time clocks, there's been a bit of controversy because the Canadian Curling Association has gone to a 70-minute game at the Brier level, and as opposed to the 80 minutes that the OCA uses here, and all the teams get a questionnaire at the beginning of the Tankard that the Ontario Curling Association gives them an opportunity to get some feedback on particular issues, and one of them was their level of comfort with an 80-minute time allotment to play a game with no timeouts versus a 70-minute allotment to play the game with 2 timeouts. And the majority of the responses were a very big concern that 70 minutes will not be enough time to play a game without jeopardizing potentially the outcome of the game, particularly with this rule when you have a lot of rocks in play and a lot of we've seen the teams get together many times in the house to try to determine the best angle of approach for a shot, and they're very concerned about 70 minutes and the free guard zone being coming into conflict with one another.
Succession of guards here, Ted, just being played and peeled. They're trying to cover that rock in the forefoot.
Is this a rule they've just brought in this year, or have they used it in Brier play for the last couple of years?
I don't know, Ted, to be honest with you. I thought it was 75 minutes last year.
I think you're right. I think the reason they brought it down to 70 minutes is they're doing a lot of television coverage now on it, and for to get the game played within the allotment time they have on television, they brought it down to 70 minutes. But I don't think we want to make it a race out there, and that's what it's going to end up being.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. Although they give them 2 timeouts, I think the timeouts may be a minute in length at the most, and it ends up they've got 72 minutes to play a game, 10-end game at this level, and I think it could be a bit of a rush for them.
I think they might have to use their one of their timeouts just to get to the hack to throw their last rock in the game.
I hope nobody ever has to go to the bathroom. They're in real trouble.
And the added difficulty is the penalty for being overtime at the Brier level, as I understand it from the OCA, is default of the game, and makes it even more severe, whereas the penalty for being overtime here in the Tankard is a point off your score once you reach the 80-minute limit, and then 1 point for every 5 minutes in addition to that time. So it can be certainly a determining factor, but it isn't as severe as the penalty as the CCA penalty.
Well, I think they certainly are going to have to take a look at this after this year's Briar and see how the curlers look at this situation.
Mike, again, thanks very much for being in on the commentary this week. We appreciated your help and all your information. And who knows, maybe we'll get the chance to do it again sometime. Would love to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing this. It's great, and you guys doing a great job. And personally, I'd like to thank the fellows again and the TV crew, the camera guys, and the guys up in the booth. Just a fantastic job, and I look forward to getting a few copies of these tapes myself.
Gee, you going to get Ted to autograph them?
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, as always.
Mike will start skipping after this.
Gee, if he can throw them like that, I'll play for him. Well, we've had Ed Werenich throw a guard up again, Ted, but there looks like a little opening from that guard to be able to get into the rock on the forefoot. So we're down to Russ Howard's first rock, and again, an interesting situation. Okay. I think Eddie must be shot, Ted, from the angle I see, but it's pretty tight there, too. While we're waiting for this decision, I think it'll be interesting, Ted, to... I think I'll drop down to early on the first flight draw, and we'll get back to the curling club here and see how many people have changed their strategy of shooting. And
yeah, this will be interesting
watching.
To see for the rest of the year. So that usually happens. I've noticed that the plays have changed over the years with people watching televisions. We went to the hit game for a while, and that was going strong for a few years, and then they seemed to get into the clutter game a bit with the old rules, and then everybody wanted to clutter, and it's all right to call these games, but you have to execute the shots. That's the big thing.
The end result is the scoreboard. You have to have more points than the opposition, and sometimes that's hard to do.
They seem to they play a lot of angle freezes. That's a big shot in this game. And
here's one coming up here.
That's what Russ is calling here.
Coming up to it, touched it, moved it over. I would hazard a guess that Eddie is still shot, but I'm not sure.
Looks like possibly he tapped it up to lay shot, and but the danger is there. You certainly can't leave Russ a chance for a straight raise back or anything.
And a real interesting shot coming up here, Ted.
Well, Eddie's called for a freeze in behind on the button there.
Just a simple freeze on the button behind a shot that's on the front of the forefoot. Not hard at all.
Those rings are getting smaller and smaller. Maybe we won't even need the forefoot paint even.
Wow.
Just paint a button on there.
We've got a larger button than usual, a 2-foot button here.
We're going to be able to save a lot of paint next year.
That's for sure. Here's Eddie. And you can rest assured he won't be far off.
I think you've likely noticed.
Tight line, they're saying, coming down.
You've noticed...
they're going for the guard, Ted. He must be shot. I thought he indicated he wanted to go into the back rings.
Yeah, I don't think Eddie threw that where he wanted it. And if you notice, there's been a lot of end set up for the intern lately. Do you think Russ is maybe trying to work Eddie's intern a bit?
I hope he hasn't been listening to our broadcast. Well, I think so, but I can't see Eddie Werenich being that far light, Ted. He must have gone for the guard. But they had indicated that with the broom that they wanted, just
it
on
looks
the back
like
of the
there's
button.
certainly lots of room for Russ to get around that guard. It's so far out. I'm sure Eddie, if he was thinking of the guard, he'd wanted to throw it in pretty tight to the rings.
Well, we've got another real
This certainly
chance here.
could be a game winner.
Yes,
Could
that's
blow
for
this
sure.
game
If
wide
he
open.
picks up 3 here, a 5-point lead with 4 ends to play is pretty difficult, particularly against the team of the stature of Russ Howard's.
There's certainly, the ice is getting a lot of movement here.
We sure want to have a look at this shot. This is. We may have to use the monitor on this one, Ted, to see the angle at the far end.
I think he'll be pretty close. It's not that tough a shot for Russ. I think he looks pretty good.
By the guard by a boot.
Could be the game winner right here.
He's got the front one, but I don't think he's got the angle. It's not coming over. Tapped it to the side, and I guess Eddie Werenich steals the point.
All there, did it? It looked good on the way in, and it didn't seem to finish.
And suddenly, this game is getting tighter again. We have Russ Howard of Penetang 6 and Ed Werenich of Avonlea 5 after 6 ends.
The important thing is to lay shot at the end, and that happened against Iola, and that was a big shot right there.
But one other guest in the booth here, and we better get him on the tape again. That's Grover Clare from Gananoque. Grover, nice to see so many people coming in from clubs like Gananoque, Napanee, and areas to help out here. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Ron. I think probably an exhibition like this, and it sure does a lot for curling in the area. I know there are quite a number from the Gananoque Curling Club and quite a number in Napanee and further west, and I don't think this type of competition that people can enjoy, and I'm sure they're going to go home and try some of these skills themselves. How successful it'll be, I'm not sure. Thank you, Ron.
Well, we'd sure like to see the Gananoque people in here, because we know the bar will do well that night.
Probably so, as we well know from past experiences.
Gee, thanks, Grover. I'm glad you came in, because Ted was picking on me all week. It's glad to have somebody else getting the shots. And again, thanks for helping out on the commentary here. It was much appreciated that you would, and who knows, we might get a chance to do it again.
Thanks again, Ron.
Hey, hurry, come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Come on.
We've got quite a game going on here. Ed Werenich calls for a short one. Russ Howard drawing away from it, and Eddie wanted to hit and roll. You know, Ted, that's one thing about this sport, though, that I will say, and anyone who's thinking of picking up the game, it's a great game. You have a lot of fun. It can be a humbling experience some nights, but the people you meet through it, they're quite a group, and the vast majority of them are really great people. You have a lot of fun.
Yes, we've certainly met a lot of great people over the years, both at the Kingston Club and also at any clubs we've been out of town visiting. It's just a great game and great people. It doesn't matter where you go in Canada. If you meet a curler, you certainly have something in common, and certainly something to talk about.
That's for sure. Russ Howard going in behind the guard, Ted. He's going to take advantage of it himself.
Well, he'd like to get us to missing that shot in the last end. I'm sure he'll be hungry to try and get a 2 and get that lead back that he had earlier in the
Ken
game.
McDermott. You notice, Ted, there's Ken McDermott. He watches that shot all the way down, right in the game, watching the line. You have to be involved, whether you're lead, second, vice, or skip. You really have to be involved.
Well, it's certainly important for the front end to know the ice just about as well as the skip, because they have to sweep the most important shots out there, and if you jump on a rock too early sometimes in a fall area, you back it off and it never recovers.
Here's Pat Perota. Sorry to interrupt you. Just got a touch on the guard. Perhaps I don't know if they were trying to freeze on that, but it's
looked like they're trying to angle freeze again. There seems to be a lot of angle freezes in this with this new rule, and it's the only way to defend against, I guess, big ends is you throw it short, and the fellas are so good at those straight back raises anymore that the short rock doesn't seem to be a big defense out there.
Good shot for Peter Corner here. Hits it on the nose. Stays for third shot. And Werenich has got another in play. Oh, here's a welcome guest, that's for sure. Ted, I didn't mean to cut you off on your comment there about, front ends having to follow the game and the ice, but it looked like we were going to get a split on the guard there. Here we've got the freeze coming now from Pat Perreault, right up close and sitting right on it. While Ted enjoys a little cup of coffee here, I've got Mark McDonald coming in. We better pick on Mark a little bit here. Mark, I think this game now, with the way they're playing with this free guard zone rule, you have to be thinking 2 shots ahead. You can't just be thinking 1 shot at a time.
That's right, Ron. And in fact, it may only be not just 2 shots, but you have to think right through to what the scenario will look like for last rock. It was interesting in the end that Russ got 4. It was he seemed to work the intern side from the Werenich team, and I don't know whether that had any impact on the result. But to me, it looked like it was Russ's best chance to get a big end, forcing the team to go with the interns.
Peter Corner trying to remove the Werenich counter at the back of the 12-foot. Ted, I think they're getting rid of the open stone there.
I noticed in the earlier ends that the Werenich team had thrown a lot of outturns, and in the last few ends, you're right. It seems like Howard's changed the shots a bit, and they've coming in from the intern side more.
Ed Werenich wants John Kawaja to draw up, try and put another stone in front of the play, looking for a jam or a freeze. This is going to be an interesting one. There's no doubt about it.
That shot of Ross's in the last end, did that not look like it finished for Mark?
I was on the side looking in, and it mustn't have finished in, and I think that's proven out in other games on sheet C, that intern right in that spot isn't curling as much as the other ones. And when the forender was scored, the intern was a problem there as well for Kawaja, I guess, on the freeze.
Right, because it didn't look like that difficult a shot from here. For Russ, it would have been for maybe you and I with that intern, but it looked, the guard was a long way out. Well, seeing a place for you a couple times.
Is he trying to put Ted another stone in the rings? Or trying to freeze into the yellow one to avoid play on it? They're going to play the kickoff.
I think he's trying to split it.
And he's, very close. Rolled back. The crowd always applauding Eddie Werenich's powerful sweeping. A scratch of the head, a check of the cap, and we're off for another shot here.
I really think he's more effective now with that push broom rather than the straw broom he used to use.
Just like what he'd do with the brownie brush.
Yeah, but would you be able to pay the commercial fees, Ted?
Going back to that last end, I thought Eddie had indicated to freeze to the one in the back of the 4. Did you notice that, or was he calling the straight guard?
I don't know. I didn't really. I wasn't paying much attention. I did see the result, and I was quite surprised that he did throw the guard.
Because Ron and I thought he'd indicated tap the rock on the 4th and lay 2 in the 4th.
He tapped the broom down there, and they moved out and went away. And I thought, oh, geez, we're going to see a neat one here. And he played the straight guard. Worked out very well for him. I don't second guess the call, but I thought it wasn't what he asked.
It was, but
Ed Werenich going to come around again, trying on that outside. We've had 2 stones.
Is it?
Don't
you, Ted, think this
yep.
is a raise on the
likely,
front
it
one?
looks like a
yep.
raise back.
The angle's there, not quite.
Not a bad result.
No, it isn't.
It does open up the other side. It's going to force Russ to cover it. Interesting. They almost had the angle.
It's become a pretty interesting end here, Ron.
Yeah. And last rock, of course, belongs to Russ Howard, so...
Have you heard any results from any of the other provinces, Mark?
No, I haven't, Ted. Thanks for asking. You've reported that Hackner and Patterson are playing the Northern Ontario final?
Was that it?
No. Ain't done, News in from the side here that Hackner has won Northern Ontario over Richter from Timmins.
So the Iceman's back in the Briar, and with Ricky Lang playing third. So already one strong team in there.
I had Bill Lewis phone me from Saskatchewan this morning, and a fellow named Olson's in the finals out there, and I can't remember the name of the other chap, but he's playing the game.
Well, we're in for quite a season of curling on television coming up, Ted, because next Saturday the Scott Tournament of Hearts starts, and shortly after that we're looking at the Briar. So.
Well, I plan to go to the Briar as long as the trains are running.
The offer's still open, Ted. We need a driver. We're driving down.
A non-drinker. Designated driver.
When are you going down, Mark?
Oh, we're going to leave Friday right after work and drive all night and be there for the opening game Saturday afternoon.
Well, I might be taking that offer up.
When are you coming back is the next question.
Well, right after the closing ceremonies on Sunday. We'll be driving back and be fresh and easy for work on Tuesday morning.
You're going to spend the whole week there.
That's right.
You're driving non-stop, are you? There's no stopover on the way down.
Nope, not at all, unless it's bad weather.
The guard for Russ Howard, right on the, just touching the center line. And now the decisions.
Is there a port there between the two yellows?
It's a pretty tight one, and angled the opposite
the way
way.
It's set up, I mean, it's pretty tight.
Do we have the raise? I don't know. I'm not even going to try to guess. They've pulled some shots out of the bag here that I wouldn't even have seen. So.
Yeah, we've been wrong a couple of times since we came on.
Well, I've been right. I've just kept my mouth shut.
We've learned from experience.
Well, I haven't beaten either of these teams yet, so that's one thing about this game too, Ted. You can always have like, well, how would I play it? What would we do here?
I really think this end is key for Eddie Werenich. I think he really has to try to set up the steal and continue the momentum of his last end, and I think if he can steal this end, he's got a good shot at winning. I think if Howard takes a point, even a single, I think he takes the momentum and probably will win the game. So I'm predicting whoever scores here will win the game.
And we'll record that one in the National Enquirer, Mark, and hold you to it there.
Looks like Eddie's just playing a hit and stick on that. Rocker Russ is in the 12-foot.
Is he
maybe hoping to be able to use it on his next shot?
On the next shot and then angle it across. Wow.
They're thinking too many rocks ahead for me.
Well, we wanted an interesting game, Ted, and we wanted an exciting one, and we've got one. A 1-point differential after 6 ends. One big end and somebody coming back. It's going to be quite a finish.
Right on. Right on. Yep. Hard. Squad. Hard.
I think he underthrew that a little. Surprised the sweepers didn't yell down. It was down weight on that shot.
Well, I thought for a while, we remember, Ted, that's that area where we've had some straight runs down there, and I think maybe they figured it was going to run pretty straight, and maybe a little bit of weight, it went over a little further than we thought. If you remember last night, we had a couple there that didn't seem to move. So
yeah, there was a couple of misses in that spot.
Well, Russ Howard still sitting 1. Ed Werenich fully in the 8-foot on top of it, his second shot. But
see, Eddie wanted to stay there to block off Russ's chance to draw into the 4-foot to set up his deuce.
Well, he also would have been able, if possible, then to angle his own yellow one over possibly on the next rock. So.
Or tap it up to the 4.
Yeah, it's all. Comment from Russ Howard, put on the top 12, we could make the raise later.
This certainly is looking like a deuce or even 3 for Russ Howard if he makes this good draw.
Heavy. Not heavy.
Heavy, not
All right. Great. It's heavy. You want it? Clean it. Clean it. Clean it. Clean it. Clean it. Clean it high. Don't touch it. Yep. Go.
To the back of the 4-foot ring, and he says he's heavy.
Still alive.
Yeah, then he can throw one on top. That certainly will tighten up the ring. It'll be awful hard for Russ to count it 2 on this end.
We're going to have to start calling him the cat. He's got so many lives.
He has. He's had a couple this series, that's for sure.
Well, if
when you have it going for you, it comes in handy sometimes.
When you remember, Russ Howard came through the challenge round and went to the World Championship, so it can be done. But boy, that's a lot of curling. So Ed Werenich is going to try to freeze to that Howard stone on the back of the 4-foot ring. A very important shot for Eddie here. He looks close. It's by the guard. Up to it and sits right on it.
Is that any good?
According to that Teddy's 2 inches heavy. What a shot. Right up to the stone at the back, and now Russ Howard's got to try to remove that.
I'd love to be 2 inches heavy all the time like that, eh?
Yeah. Just incredible.
The question is, can Russ get shot? Is there
Yeah,
enough curl past that guard?
That's the thing. I don't know if he can even get in off that.
He's going to have to move it. It's a...
Russ might have been better to throw in his first one up in the top 12.
That's what he wanted. I think he was...
Counted his deuce on his last one.
They said heavy all the way down, and they said leave it up top. They wanted it high.
You know, Eddie can be awful tough when he has the 4-foot in his back pocket. That's his saver.
I think Russ was saying I have to come to the 4-foot because if I leave it top there, Eddie can make the raise back double on ones on the center line, pick out the back one, and geez, Eddie could be lying.
Here's a good rock coming down here. They're hard on it all the way. A lot of sweeping. It's a good one. Has he got it? Has he got it? And onto the button for the point.
Just a tremendous shot by Russ Howard.
Uh-oh. A little controversy coming here.
That he was coming around?
Yeah, I think there was Ken McDermott might have brushed a stone in the rings as it was coming into rest. I don't know whether it would have affected the line of the rock, but it is an infraction and has to be dealt with.
So John and Glenn are having a chat here. I would hope that this hasn't happened. You hate to see it, but you must follow the rules. In this case, should we get a hold of the umpires and let them make the decision, Mark?
No, I think this is the best route to go. I think these teams have so much respect for each other that they'll talk it out. If they can't make a decision, then obviously if there was an infraction, it's a burnt rock.
Yeah, I mean, these people aren't going to lie and say they didn't. If we have a burnt rock, it has to be removed. It's unfortunate.
I think maybe the debate is whether if Ken touched it, he might have touched it, but did he burn it? Or did he move it?
Yeah.
You know, and did it affect the line of the rock coming in?
So it looks like the debate is settled here. Mark, you hate to see something like that where, especially in somebody's working so hard, it's totally accidental, but especially in a game like this, determine it.
It usually happens, something like that in a final game.
Yeah. Anyway, Russ Howard is getting his point, and after 7 ends of play, we have a 7-5 game in favor of Russ Howard.
Just a final comment. I think everyone should observe that it was great that it was resolved by the players and not by the officials, and that's a true credit to the rules of curling and the way that the sport is being governed now, and giving the game back to the players, and they'll make the right decision. And I don't think anyone's out to take advantage of the rules and the intent of the game, even at this top level with so much on the line.
You also noticed the honesty. Somebody said, yes, I did do it. So you have to play it that way. That's for sure. So we're off and running. The first stone's in the rings, and it's behind the 4-foot. Ted, are we going to see a freeze here or a short stone? Short stone.
I imagine you'll get some things up front and get going. Marilyn Badeau has joined us again. It's a great pleasure to have you back, and you look a little nervous.
Oh, no, not at all. Things are just wonderful. It's going to be a great day. Anyhow, it's been an exciting game. You know, when someone cracks a four-ender as Russ Howard, the game is not over until the last rock is thrown. And I have a lot of respect for Eddie's team, and, Russ's team has been strong all week long. So it's going to go down to the wire. I'm still sticking with my prediction, though.
Well, a lot of people picked Russ Howard, that's for sure.
Yeah, the crowds here have been terrific. Committee has been outstanding. Everything has just been wonderful.
Well, so far, Marilyn, your prediction's right, except we're only in the 8th instead of the 10th end, so.
That's okay. 1 for 1. I'm sticking by it.
Well, let's put it this way. If you can predict this game, you can buy my lottery tickets for me, that's for sure.
Well, it's just that during the Bat Briar, I'm going to be cheering the big 4-0, so the boys have promised me a ticket to Halifax.
Well, I'm going down, so we'll see.
We'll celebrate together. Just a comment, too, about the ice conditions. They've been really good, but talking to both the teams here, Eddie's team and Russ's team, there has been a variation of changes in the ice. And again, today it's curling, really hard, and everyone thinks that when, Eddie or Russ lets go on a draw, that it's heavy and then it's coming down, after the hog line. So that makes a lot of pressure on the front ends for sweeping, and I think both front ends have done a terrific job here.
Yeah, it looked like last night, Ron and I had mentioned that it looked like it was getting flat out there in some spots. Those interns, men were standing way over in the corner there. Do you remember that, Ron?
Yeah, when we had a couple of guards touch that really you wouldn't have expected from those teams. Neil Harrison coming by the guard and right up to the stone at the back of the rings. Here we go.
That's Neil's forte, actually. It's his intern that's probably more deadly than his out turn, so that's an excellent shot. Also, too, you used to see a lot of the seconds just hitting, and I think both seconds, Pat Perot and Peter Corner, have thrown a lot of crucial draws this game.
Yeah, we see a lot of angle freezes in this game. I think that's a better shot than throwing the guard up.
Peter Corner coming into the rocket. Okay. Touches it, just moves it back, and believe is hitting shot stone.
More importantly, on front end rocks also too, Ron, is the angles that they leave for the third shots coming down. And weight's really important. Anything behind the tee, I think you can really count out of the game almost.
Yeah, we've certainly, Marilyn, seen a change in the game in 3 years very, very quickly.
Pat Perot seems to have great line on this shot.
Sweepers on it all the way.
Got good weight. I think they're looking for the tap here, just an inside. Looks like a wonderful shot.
By the guard, the touch, and he's there. Somehow, Ted, I think we're going to trade the Trenton tape for this one before the end of the day. And now Peter Corner.
Well, the crowds are certainly appreciating the shot.
This is a really crucially weight shot here. It has to be up front top, even if it's top 4 foot. Line seems to be a little far out. It's coming down.
Just a little overdraw on that one.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of weight there.
From the camera angle, Ted, Ed's yellow shot at the back is shot stone, and then the first blue shot that there you can see of Russ Howard's second shot. Eddie indicating he wants to come in.
Yeah, Ron, you're right. Eddie's lying one at the back of the 4 foot there. But that blue rock in the front of Russ's is going to come into play, I think, shortly. I mean, he can't guard everything. Sometimes the best guards to come right in.
Can you imagine how good this game would have been, Ted, if we were still playing 12 ends? Wow.
I don't remember those days.
You were playing 16, were you?
Eddie's team would have died if it had been 12 ends. I love their sweeping routine, if you've noticed it at all. I mean, they both take, all of them take turns taking the front of the rock. I think it's great teamwork.
I'm just impressed with Ed's power sweeping there. Even the crowd is, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
they're really trying to root him on, aren't you?
Yeah. Ted, have you noticed what the indication is on the shot? Are they coming right in and playing?
It looks like they're coming right into the floor.
Pat Pro's just basically going to play the same shot. He's got a lot to roll off of also, too. This looks like a touch lighter. Line's still on the edge of the 4 foot still.
Going off the blue paint a bit.
He's got a lot to roll off here, Ron. Weight looks fine. Doesn't hurt now to sweep.
Just by that guard by an inch. Oh.
Two beautiful rocks.
That throw. Those are what you used to see the skips throw, Ted. We're going to see some interesting decisions.
So you likely get more nervous watching than you do when you're out there playing.
I've never been a spectator before, Ted. This is a new experience. This is actually my first Labatt Tankard coming in a provincial level, and it's been run just like a Briar.
A tremendous week here for everybody.
Ted, I'm glad I have a little job to do here, some commentating. I watched the first game in the seats, and I was jumping up and down. The kid, my class came with me, and you wondered what you're sort of leaning to get up by guards and everything else.
It's a lot harder, too, when you're pulling extra for another team also, too, you know. And the crowds have been excellent for both teams here this afternoon. They're clapping for good shots, great shots. And I think they have a lot of heart for both these teams. Glennie's throwing a real pistol here. Let's see if there's some action here. He catches a piece of that yellow one.
Got a bit of the yellow one and one of his own. Ed's still shot, and Russ is still second shot at the back. Here we go again, another one.
Ed's object here is really to hold Russ to one, or, I mean, if he steals, that's another bonus. This is a big turning point. 8th end, you want to take this end for control. Doesn't matter which team.
The last rock is Eddie's. So.
Yes, excuse me, yes, you're right. Sorry, I really wanted the 8th end.
It is hard to understand, especially when you hate to see in this game where somebody's going to come out on the shorter end of a score. Sweeping hard. Just by that front guard.
I don't think I've seen John miss a draw all week long.
Right in. But the only prediction I'm going to make, Ted, is that this won't be a blank end.
Yeah, Kawaja's certainly played well all week. He's held Eddie in earlier in the week in quite a few games because I thought Eddie was struggling most of the week, and I think that's why they're still out there playing today.
Yeah, John is certainly the key on this team. Both calling angles. I've never seen anybody call a more pure angle than John Kawaja.
Another discussion, Ted, between Glenn and Russ. At least it is nice to see that there are some situations that even perplex the best. Wow.
I'm wondering when Russ is going to play this top 8-foot rock. There's one good thing about the Howard team is that Russ and Glenn have great communication. There isn't usually a major decision that hasn't been made, that they both really don't discuss it. We've seen it lots on TV. We've seen it lots here this week. And I think that's a good factor for their team here.
Yeah, it's certainly great to have a place that can give you a lot of information. I think Skip needs somebody to give him the confidence. What he has to throw to is the other thing. I know you had a strong vice when you won the World, and you worked together very well.
It's a big key.
So what's the stone? What do you think?
I think he's playing the draw down, edge it in. And sometimes rocks that aren't perfectly placed, but out front are good angles. This is important to get this angle. This is running on the edge of the 4-foot again. It's got to come up hard.
Just starting to move into the blue now. He's got a chance at it.
We're coming into the top of the house now.
Onto the
and
yellow
still
stone.
nailing two. Trouble is, Ed does have to make some sort of a move on this rock, because it is a potentially dangerous stone.
You certainly don't want to throw a guard in case Russ ever made the raise back onto the button, and that's what happened in the semifinal game. Wayne Madod threw the guard, and Eddie made the jump across, and he ended up guarding Eddie's shot. So that's something you have to think about.
Wayne Madod's came so close off his. If he'd had another couple of inches of angle, why, we'd have seen another good one, I think. Tremendous shooting.
You're right, Ron. You know, a lot of these shots, too, the free guard zone, you're not playing just one shot to defend your end. You have to think about 2 or 3 possible shots the other skip can make, and that's the shot that you want to leave the other opposite skip to throw. What shot's the hardest?
I think they've decided to play the angle freeze, Ted, on the front one, so that Russ can't push it back and use it. That's what they indicate anyway. They touched the top of the rings, but of course the last time they touched the back of the rings, honestly, played a guard. So
it's really hard to know what's in their heads, Ron.
That's for sure.
I'm just glad I got my Purple Heart a few years ago.
Last rock for John Kawaja here in the 8th.
Much lighter.
He seems to go a little bit out off of the
playing halfway.
The blue and then start to move. Hard sweeping all the way. Just touched the guard at the front and sits in front of the blue stone.
He has left something.
They were trying to get a round out, do you think, Marilyn, and into the 4?
Well, when Johnny let go, I thought, oh, you know, he's light, much lighter. Looked like he was trying to corner on that top Howard rock there and take the angle away and come into the 4-foot and to potentially leave himself a tap there also, too. So, but now John's left it short, and Russ can play off his rock.
You should maybe consider playing lead. You call sweeping so well. You knew he was light right away.
Well, it's amazing how I've been here since Thursday afternoon, so I can tell from release where it's going now.
Geez, Ted, does that sound like a contract is in the offer there?
Maybe get a mixed team going.
It doesn't hurt for a skip to play lead. It somewhat humbles them a little bit. That's what I love about this game, too. It's coming down to the wire. 8th end is a huge turning point, and both teams know it. They're taking their time here and make sure that, you know, what they call and what they make is going to leave them something.
What I'm hoping, Ted, is we go to an extra end so I can finally see the last rocks coming towards us and not have to judge them from the monitor. I wouldn't bet against it here. It's going to be an interesting game. And,
certainly this late in the game, one mistake can certainly cost you a trip to the Briar.
I don't mean to belabor the point, but with 3 rocks left to come, we only have 2 stones in the corner, Ted. The rest are all in play, and they're all in the rings but one. Oh. This looks like a Ken Watson design here.
That's a Howard Werenich game. You know, we've seen them lots on TV, especially in the skins game. So this makes it really interesting.
Well, this is the final that all the people want to see, so I'm sure they've got their money's worth this week.
I would say, though, Ted, from all those teams who are here, we've got an awful lot of rinks biting on the heels of these 2 teams to, you know, be real good representatives for the province. It's tough to get out of here anymore.
Well, it's certainly going to be a good Briar with Hackner. We understand it's in. And, whichever team wins today, that'll make for an exciting Briar.
The one beauty thing about being from the province of Ontario, also to Ted and Rod, is that Ontario is the teams to look at. Usually it was Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, and now Northern Ontario, have the strongest teams coming out. And I think that says a lot for our province.
That's right. We've had good representatives for the last 10 years likely.
Well, any rink here, Ted, would have made a good representative for the province, no doubt about it. And Marilyn, look at the field in the ladies. I mean, how many teams there could have the potential to win it all?
My sister, Christine Jurgensen, is playing lead for the BC team, so I'm pumping for Ontario, Allison, and BC. This is very important, this shot. He needs angle and weight. It might be light. It might be light.
A little
He's light.
I think they had to wait a little bit for the line on that shot. So they got to the base of that rock they were raising up.
Still lots of possibilities, though. Angles are getting tough, though. The 2 blue ones cornered at the edge of the 4 there. Ed does have his deuce.
Well, they're sitting it at the moment, but I wouldn't lay any money on it from some of the shots I've seen. 10 rocks in the rings, Ted. 1 short. And possibly, there are at least 6 rocks and possibly 7 touching the 4-foot.
Be interesting to see how much time they've ate up on their clocks with playing the 8th end here.
Well, we had a check on the time after the 5th end break, and they were all right for time at that point in the game. So this end is certainly slowing down a lot.
Are they pretty even there, Ted, on the times?
Yeah, they were both under by 2-3 minutes, so they're going to need it if they keep playing these. I hate to say it, Ted, but we mentioned it before. If you're going to play a game like this with a free guard zone room, the 70 minutes in the Briar, they better have a good look at it. I don't think they're... You've made the game at least 6 minutes slower by putting in the free guard zone. They're going to have to be careful that you don't destroy the game by not giving people adequate time, I think.
You know, also, too, Ron, a lot of people get upset. The crowds get upset. The Briar went off, right off the first bat. The first rock thrown into the house, as you saw here. Eddie threw the first rock in the house, and they basically played the first 2 ends pretty clean. You know, and that is basically playing the clock in the first while. You want to save time for the 8th, 9th, and 10th end, because these teams know they're going to get into it after the 5th.
Well, Eddie made the comment the other night, too, when he came out, that they weren't going to lose it in the first end, so that's not... he got hit by 4 for Harris, and I don't think he wanted to play that again.
You know what Eddie's call is here? Just throwing the guard up, you think?
Not sure. I think is he trying to promote that yellow one and move the 2 blues?
I don't think he can make any harm here on the blue rocks because of the angle here. Seems to be floating out.
He's knocked that one through, and he's covered the blue one.
He's taken away a possibility of a raise here by Russ. Russ has got a fine kiss tap on the blue one. That's the only thing I can see, Ron. I can't see a raise outside of the rings or anything. So, yep.
And you know,
given the indication there.
What's so interesting about this is there isn't a rock in front of the rings covering them. It's just such a tight end and so well played.
I didn't know if that shot was there, if Eddie had put the guard on that, the way those rocks were set before that.
This is a really tough shot for Russ. He has to be extremely careful. If he plays on his blue one and taps it in and makes a great shot for shot, Eddie still has the raise on the yellow one, depending on the angle of Russ's draw there. But if Russ kisses this and kisses it too far, Eddie's got a really good crack at a 4.
Yeah, you can see that, what you mean.
It's there. You can see that it's the one stone that's blocking it. Wow.
That's right. Plus, here's the same thing that we've said. Kenny's first rock was deep. Anything behind the tee is a disadvantage towards you.
This must remind you, Ron, when you used to play with the irons.
You were the guy that played with the irons, Ted. Now, you remember when they changed over. You guys have been picking on me about my age all week, and I must remind you that you are still my elder there. What a discussion. I can't believe it. This end has just been enjoyable. It would be worth the price of admission to see this end alone. Everybody in the stands is sort of trying to get an angle at it to see what you'd play. I wonder if we polled the crowd now, Ted, what do you play?
It's very important too, Ron, just to add a serious note here as a competitor in this type of a game. They're playing a Provincial Tankard final here, and they really have to stay focused. And crowd cackling and motion from the audience does play a part here. And this is where both teams have to stay very focused and intense right now. This could be the game right here for either one of them.
I must admit, too, the crowds here have been real good. As soon as the person's down to throw, it's quiet. I cautioned my students when we brought them down about that, and they suddenly realized that, hey, wait a minute here. This is, you've got somebody about, they were playing on sheet E about 10 feet away, and you just don't bother them.
You're right, Ron. The crowds have been very appreciative, and actually you can drop a pin in here, at the times when they are throwing, so... Maybe that's good and maybe that's bad too. Who knows?
I've almost been afraid to make a comment here. You're sort of playing until the person's released the stone. You almost feel they can hear you down there.
What if he played some weight on this shot and tried to tip that one over and roll the shooter right out of the rings to eliminate it for Eddie to play off?
I think they looked at it, and I did see John make a broom indication when he was talking to Eddie about that angle of that blue rock.
I'm not sure exactly what they've called. I really have no idea. So we're going to have to wait and see, I think, here.
They're not sure either, Ron, so now they're going to the other side for the guard. Play the guard, take your deuce, Eddie, and let's play 9 and 10.
Don't let him get the big one. You can't blame somebody here. That's just too deadly a situation, Marilyn. If you did let them have a crack at the
They got to work hard on this, Ron. They've got to work real hard on this.
Come on, guys, get going here. They'll get her across. They won't leave her short. Yeah, remember Eddie's out here on the side here when he played it. I know it was newer ice, but he was, about 5 feet short of the rings too there. I wonder if we're starting to get a bit of an effect, Ted.
I know that the boys all have commented that it is a second heavier today than it has been all week long. And that makes a difference on a particular shot like this as a guard.
Well, it's nice. It's comforting, Ted. How many times have we thrown them like that, and you hope your sweepers are powerful?
I don't know if I want to try to play this shot myself.
Well, I know
Awful ticklish. You could give Russ one, couldn't you, there?
You could. He'd have to throw it pretty bad. He'd have to throw it and tick his own. This is the shot that Russ wouldn't play.
Is he trying to get a for the four?
Yeah. And this is Eddie's out turn. We know how dangerous it can be.
Well, here's the key shot of the game so far for me.
Well, it's not a hit.
No, it's a quiet shot.
Is he playing the raise on the yellow one there, Ron, do you think?
That's about the only shot he has there where he could promote it. Put the top yellow one in.
Angle's not there yet.
Starting to move, coming into the blue
It's all
paint.
weight now. It's all weight.
Got it. The sweepers are on it. Not quite enough. Man, what a try. 2 points for Ed Werenich, and after 8 ends, we're tied. Oh. Yeah. An end like that, I'm telling you, I've seen combinations, but that's something else.
I think a lot of people we talked to thought, Howard would either bust it open real early, or if it hung in after 5 ends, it would come right down to the last shot.
Well, here we go with the 9th end. Last rock belongs to Russ Howard. It's a 7-7 tie. And I don't know, Ted. Can we have any more excitement in this game than we've had already? Wow, this is something else.
And they're still going at it. A great shot by Neil Harrison. 2 feet out in front of the house.
I think what Eddie's doing here is trying to protect against the blank end. So put something up front so Russ can't blank it.
This is an important shot here for Howard's team. They must get around this rock.
Just touched the guard and rolled into the rings. Ed's going to play the removal. Again, not much ice there, Ted.
Notice, Ron, how quickly the leads are in the hack, ready to throw their rock right away. So they've got to be tight on time here now. They've got to make up some time for the back end to throw.
Nice roll by Neil Harrison. A little too far. Over and Russ once. Russ is going to hit the second one and try to roll behind the guard. Ken McDermott.
This is the psychological part of the game also, too, where you have to say to yourself, what do I want in the 9th end? I need my deuce. It's almost impossible to blank.
Well, certainly, I think Russ would like to get 2 here. Blank certainly wouldn't hurt him. I think that's why Eddie threw that short one up, just to eliminate possibly the blank end.
Pat Perot is trying to hit and roll off. He's got some kind of a roll here.
I'm so glad men scream also, too. Aren't you glad, Ted?
Couldn't you get excited playing in this one? Wow. Oh, nice roll by Pat Perot.
This is where we've seen all week long. It doesn't matter where the rolls go. The straight backs, the doubles are all there. And it's just amazing how many we've seen that all week long. Peter corner set in the hack.
And Peter's made quite a few of these this week. He's cleaned off a lot of double take-ins.
Yes, he has.
Strong shooter.
Looking good. Straight back there.
Does Peter enjoy the second position now better than playing lead?
I think Peter is really fitting into the second stone position. Playing lead on an awesome team is wonderful, but believe it or not, the word boring came into effect. I mean, I tell you, if I was playing lead on Russ Howard's team and winning 40 or 50 or 60 grand a year, I don't think I'd be bored too much.
You can bore me all you want that way.
But that just shows you the intensity of these players, and you know, he's really happy to play in second, and I think it was a good move for Wayne also to, you know, to play skip, and I think that he proved himself to have more than a good year for himself. He did himself very proud yesterday.
It was just unfortunate. I felt sorry for him losing that game because I thought he skipped a tremendous game against Eddie last night, and not letting Eddie get too much to work with. And,
going to remove the top guard here. And trying the other one too. I don't see, Ted, did Ed Werenich say he was coming in, or is he putting up another short one? I couldn't see what he indicated.
It's important for guards now, I think. You know, he's got a top 12-foot rock. It's not good enough to steal this end. Do you want to steal the end, though?
This is it. He's also guarding against the raise back. Russ could lay one covered.
I think
nice stone by John Kawaja.
I think the process here in Eddie's mind would be to force Russ to one and have the hammer coming home. You know, deuces are you're seeing them across the board all the time.
Good weight from Glenn Howard here. On the front one, onto the blue one, takes the shot out of the rings, moves 3 around, and opens it up.
And just to think, you have to hit 3 rocks to do that. Still leaves the guard, and John Kawaja is going to come right around. This is what I'm saying. It looks heavy. Line's edge.
Starting to move now, just at the hog line.
See his draw weight? Unbelievable.
Right up.
He's had that all game, that's for sure.
Into the 4-foot. Ted Russ is coming around with the other turn.
He's going to play a tap back here.
So he's got a
yeah, he's playing the half-weight tap to the corner. Got to get by this guard. That's big time. That's big time. Come on, guys.
Right by paper.
By the corner. Right over.
Roll over in the cover.
Great shot.
There's another good rock from Glenn Howard.
Well, that's certainly a big reason why this team has had so much success. Glenn's ability to make shots like that.
Which also, too, is, you know, Russ just didn't hesitate at all. He put that broom down. He knew exactly what these ice conditions are doing. He just put that broom down. Glenn knew it. He threw it.
The ice can sure set up those 2s and 3s for you with a shot like that.
I'm just going to try the freeze here. Get it around the corner. Try and angle it.
It's a difficult freeze with the way those rocks are positioned out there.
Just if he's top 4 on the angle, he won't come near that rock, I don't think, Ted, because
starting to move on him. It's across the center line now.
Eddie's light. Ed struggled a little bit with his draw. That's 2 draws Ed's missed.
Like now, Russ Howard has a chance to get the second counter in and in behind cover.
they must be struggling for time. They're not wasting any time getting down there.
I think it's lost.
Here's Russ Howard's first stone, an out-turn draw.
Hard! Hard! Hard alive!
It's moving over too.
He's light too. He's by.
By the guard.
I'd be hammering this. Of course, what do I know, right?
Let it dive a little. Great stone.
Beautiful shot. I wouldn't have minded that butt biting the top four, though.
You might have figured it might come out in the open if they keep sweeping it to come out the other side a little bit.
And leave the tap raise or tap roll that Glenn had made.
Well, Ed Werenich's going to come down and try to with the room. They said touch and roll over. Here we go.
I have a very powerful binocular in my hand here, and I'm trying to read the clocks here because I know it's a concern here. I think they have about 7 minutes left on the clock to play the last half of this end and 10. So 5 minutes is plenty of time because they do have 2 timeouts that give them, or is it 1 timeout in the men's?
No.
No timeouts in this.
None.
No timeouts.
Yeah, 80 minutes straight and clear. That's the difference. And wow.
So they have no time clock to borrow. Eddie's going to make sure on this. He's playing the same shot. He's coming across the line. His weight looks fine.
As you're watching it.
His weight looks fine. All he needs is a corner.
Just a corner.
Just a corner.
He's got a corner and the roll.
And a roll.
Don't count him out, eh? So Russ is basically going to... Ted, do you try to get your point here?
That shot.
Oh, isn't it?
Russ is going to try and draw for his one. Yeah, that's all he has.
This is a hard thing. You're drawing for one and giving up the hammer. You might almost want to keep it. A very
miss
big
there,
decision.
and that would have been pretty well for the game.
Yeah, Russ would have had a crack at 3.
Well, my prediction is wrong. Russ Howard's team is not going to be up 2 coming home.
Looked off those balls.
It did, Ted. This might be a smidge heavy.
Says heavy.
It's heavy.
Sweep it back. Who is it? We're going to have our first measure that I've seen, Ted.
I think Glenn indicated it was, he thought it was Blue Rock, but we're going to measure. We certainly can't tell.
With this new rule, though, Ted, it's kind of hard being one up going home without the hammer. It's a difficult situation to play. So,
Ron, also, too, this is a psychological point. For Blue Rock, for Russ's team, if it's a steal of 1, they are still 1 down with the hammer. That is still control of the game here. But it's a psychological point here. For Ed Werenich's team, if they steal it, it's, yep, we stole it. And we've got the hammer in the extra end to give them 1 in the 10th. The same old question is asked, Ron and Ted, both over again. Do you want to be 1 up with or 1 up without?
We've discussed that all week. We haven't come up with the answer.
Whoa.
Johnny
now
thinks
we've got
it's
a real
his.
tight one.
It's yellow.
It's yellow. A steal of 1 for Eddie Werenich. So after 9 ends of play, it's 8-7 for Ed Werenich. People wanted the extra.
We really appreciate you coming in and giving us your views of the game. And
Thanks.
good luck.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Ron. I think I'm going to go watch by the sideboards. It's been a real pleasure being up here with you, and I've really enjoyed my week here at the Tankard. Thanks.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Okay,
and,
boys.
I'm sure we'll see you in the Ladies Ontario again next year.
On the Ontario. And you know what, Ron? Don't worry. We're going to be back.
Take care.
Ted, I've always wanted to broadcast one of these final ends or something. It looks like
Well,
this is
it looks like we have our chance, eh?
But the 7th
We
game
might
of the
be,
World Series should be easy after this one.
We might be working overtime yet, too. That's not out of the picture.
Not at all. Ed Werenich puts one right in the 4-foot. Russ Howard wants one just off to the right. Have center line and short. We're off and going. Well, people said the longer the game stayed tight, Eddie Werenich.
The better the chances for Ed, eh?
Don't know. I'm beginning to think, Ted, that you know, it's just a shame that somebody has to come out on the short end of a score after a game like this.
Well, the one thing I can predict that nobody's leaving this building right now.
No, that is for sure. Ed Werenich, Peter McDermott put up the rock he was looking for. Ed Werenich is going to cover the shot in the 4-foot. Neil Harrison.
I think you'll find Eddie trying to play the safe steal. He'll and tighten the rings up so at the worst, so Russ can't get a deuce. And it's certainly a tough situation, tough position to play. And we've talked about this type of end many times. So
suddenly we have Mark McDonald appearing again. The game must be getting tight here.
We'll get Mark to sit in because he's played this type of end a few times, and he knows how to play ends with lots of rocks in play.
Peter McDermott trying to go around and come up to the face of the Werenich stone. It's in the 4-foot. This has been just an absolutely superb curling game. We've seen in the last draw the.
Well, Russ certainly is pulling out all stops. With Eddie putting one in the top 4 and through the corner. And now he's going to have to rely on some pretty spectacular shots by his team, which they're capable of.
Well, they're running short on time. That's why they're hustling this game up. We took a look at the clocks here. I think it was around 7 minutes. Does that give you lots of time to play it in?
Oh, certainly. You know, they're a little bit tight, but I think they'll manage to.
Pat Perot hollering for sweeping all the way down. Just paper thin on the guard and the roll. It's not going to be dull, the finish of this game. You can rest your bottom dollar on it. Ted, we've seen some thrilling games. The last round-robin game, Ed Werenich coming by Kirk Ziola, a great quarterfinal, a great, semifinal, a great tiebreaker. It's just been fantastic.
I think Russ is going to promote the blue so that he can expose that second yellow counter that he can come off of later in the end. Normally the shot would be to come around the intern side and try to push it back. I think this is a great call.
Shot for Peter Corner. Now they're on it for line. A great looking shot right back onto the shot in the 4-foot and in behind cover.
You're right there, Mark. That was a great call.
What a great shot.
I think the option was there that if it didn't curl up and didn't get the raised tap, that at least he'd expose that second counter. So the shot was made that was called, but I think the option was there as well. I think Eddie will play the straight freeze on this and try to tighten the rings down so that Russ can only get his one.
Okay, corner freeze it.
That's what they've called John Kawaja says, okay, corner freeze it. Just a simple corner freeze, eh, Mark? By the second stone.
It's never over to the last rock's throwing, so
no.
they can take these raise backs so easy. Never
Do you think Russ hustled on that last draw to the fourth hole in the ninth, or do you think he really wasn't anxious to score a point?
Well, I think
It's tight on the guard. Tight on the guard here. Just by again, and touches it back.
I think he looked at the time clock. They wasted a lot of time in that eighth inning. Preserving as much time as he could for this end.
Mark, did you hear anything about the burned rock, or the possible burned rock? Was anything said out there at all? Or?
No, I haven't heard a word, and I think the players resolved it, and it's not an issue now.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad of that, because you don't want to see anything like that deter,
People
take
were
away
asking
from the
me
game.
about the measurements. They said, oh, I thought the officials measured, and I said, no, they've given it back to the players, and the officials are only to come into the game when they're asked.
Another shot coming for Peter Corner. He's trying to move that Werenich stone. Starting to move now. By the guard by a couple inches. Taps it through.
The players are sure in the hack ready to play. There's not a lot of discussion on this end, so they certainly must be tight on time.
Yeah, they're not fooling.
Looks like the double takeout call.
And here's the guy that can throw them. John Kawaja. Hauling hard for sweeping all the way. The double. And the rollover, and Ed Werenich fell lying 2 shots.
Kawaja's sure on fire, isn't he?
Yes, sir. I think he wants to go back.
He certainly is very animated in his sweeping, and that just shows how intense a player he really is.
He certainly calls the game well.
He reads that rock so well out of Eddie's hand that he knows exactly what he's going to do.
Here's Glenn Howard. Two inches. Is it heavy? Eddie Werenich sweeping the stone back a little deep to the back 12-foot ring. Power sweeping. So what are we looking for here now, guys?
Like the possibilities of an extra end here.
Yes, that's for sure. Where does he want to put this stone, Ted?
I imagine top 8.
This is interesting, that in-turn draw that Glenn just threw being long. Eddie's team was long on those in-turn draws back in the fourth end, so maybe a little bit of a quicker spot on the ice.
Close by the guard here for John Kawaja.
This one
looks good.
Well there.
Just the touch of the forefoot.
On fire is the word.
Mark, the crowd here just has to enjoy this. I mean, look, superb shot making, and there's still a chance of an extra end.
Well, they're sure in the game, every player out there. That's the key.
Even Wendy Howard's in the game. I was up on the upper track talking to her, and she and I went for a walk along the track to have a closer look at that 8th end. And she was helping Russ skip that end.
They're going after the long blue rays here. Move the blue stone. It's going to be on a bit of an angle. Takes the 2 guards off and then goes into the 1 Werenich counter. Now it's wide open.
Well, Eddie's forced to remove that blue rock. Can't take the chance on leaving it there and playing for the steal.
No, and Russ does have 2 stones that are sitting 4th and 5th shot at the moment, too, so you can't, with the way these teams throw doubles, you don't leave anything.
I noticed that the chief umpire, John McRae, has moved down to position himself with the time clock keeper.
I know it's part of the game, but I would hate to see a time penalty decide anything here.
You won't see it here.
The time clock looks awful close, though.
Yeah. Here's Eddie Werenich going after the blue stone. Sweeping hard all the way. He's got the hit, an angle, and over onto his stone.
Well, certainly I don't think it's exactly what Eddie wanted. Eddie would like to hit and stay right where he was. The chance of a double takeout, easy double takeout here, I don't know if he can jam that back on that.
It looks like it would jam on the back blue one, and that...
certainly depends on the angle.
Well, again, I can make my only good prediction. It isn't going to be a blank. They're going
right
after
all week with that, that call.
That's the only call I've been right with. Russ Howard coming here with the first shot. He did get the double, but it did jam it, Ted. And Eddie's sitting shot stone at the moment. I'm not sure about second shot. I think it's the blue stone at the front, but he may be sitting too, but they're wide open.
Well, it's either playing a hit on that blue or playing the come round. I think Eddie would like to remove that. This way, he's pretty well assured of an extra end with the hammer. You like that call, Mark?
I think so. Russ has still got a chance if Eddie hits it and rolls or even rolls for a fourth shot or something, and then Russ could play the double on those back two yellow. It's not an easy double and may even be impossible. But,
well, Russ is coming to this end, so he's down to his last few seconds, that's for sure.
If Eddie drives this one straight back, he might remove both of those blue stones.
Certainly.
They're on it all the way. Oh, now off.
Certainly a tough to throw last shot.
Takes the yellow stone out at the back of the rings, and Ed Werenich is sitting 3. Russ Howard right in the hack. The time must be tight. They're just looking at the clocks back there.
He's fine. We're going to have a real special treat here, an extra end.
Sweeping hard on this one. Real hard on it, all the way. It's starting to move on that blue paint. Starting to move. He's by, and onto the back one, just by the front guard. Counts his point, and we've got it, friends. An extra end for the Labatt Tankard. Wow.
Well, that really shows just how good these players are. They can do it fast. They can do it slow. Under pressure.
I'd like to know who the script writer was for this week, because they've sure done it well. They can buy my lottery tickets anytime. Wow, what a game. Well, gentlemen, now I will retire to your experience. You are Russ Howard. How do you play the extra end? McDermott, here we see how he's going to play it. First shot, and it's an out turn.
Well, it certainly has to be a nerve-wracking situation for Ken McDermott, because he certainly would like to get that Purple Hearts for the first time.
About halfway between the hog line and the rings, just touching the center line. Ed Werenich says he wants the feather peel. In other words, again here he's trying to move that blue stone to the side. He cannot remove it because of the free guard zone rule, but they're trying just to tap it and get it away from center line. Sweeping hard. Out-turned by Neil Harrison. He's got a crack at it. Will it go? A nice shot by Neil Harrison with a perfect feather peel.
That could be a game winner there.
Here's where your leads really play.
win the game for you on that type of shot.
Interesting to look there, too. The smiles between Russ Howard and Ed Werenich. I mean, here you are playing for the Ontario Championship, and they're still able to enjoy a shot like that.
Well, I
Great
think
stone.
Russ really appreciates how great that shot was of Neil Harrison.
We may actually see a few peels here, Ted.
They taught Neil that shot back in '71.
Was that because you kept crashing on the guards?
I think he's glad you did. Here we have now the straight peel for Neil Harrison. Little ice and little power. Hit and a roll over. Out of play.
Now, Russ will probably throw long guards because he's got to rely probably on the jam on the peel. Jam over to the side. I think we saw this in McCoffin's game, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They played a lot of them and almost got it on a couple of occasions.
Well, who would ever think there'd be an extra end after that forehand that Russ Howard scored in the fourth?
You just never give up. The guard here by Peter Corner. About halfway, close to halfway between the hog line and the rings. Ed Werenich asking Pat Perreault to remove it. The in turn.
Closing ceremonies are all the volunteers.
Yeah, I think probably most of them. Some of them will be over in the igloo looking after things, and but
hit, roll to the boards.
That are available are supposed to be here to parade out. As well, we have Rob Roy Pipe Band again, as we did in the opening ceremony.
This must be kind of frustrating for Russ here. You're doing the best you can to get something up, and they're going to keep removing them. Peter Corner with the guard again, long, short stone.
Well, that's so important, that first shot of Neil's. It takes away the short rock.
That's been about the first one I've seen actually really executed well, Ted. Well, I saw one other one and then people tried it. Oh, there's a break. It removes the one blue stone on the far side and takes away one chance of a jam. Good stone.
I think Russ is thinking that he's got to put it real long now for the angle jam on the only stone remaining. However, following Glenn's shot will be John Kawaja, so the heat on his peel will probably peel everything.
We haven't seen John throw very many peel shots in this.
I'm just wondering, going back to that first rock, would you be better to throw a partial corner guard on your first rock? And that would make that shot, that chip shot, more difficult, wouldn't it?
I think, Ted, you're right, and I think that might be experimented probably by competitive players over the years.
Here's a John Kawaja peel coming right now. And we may have he's rolled it close to a nose hit.
You don't see John miss many of those peels like that. Got the roll, but gives Russ at least something to work with.
He's going to come in behind, at least make, the big thing is to make the opposition skip, make that last shot. Don't give it to him for free.
Well, force Eddie to draw a likely fight before in this last one to win this game, the way the rocks are situated now.
Here's Glenn Howard trying to come around the guards and draw the rings.
Right on. Now, come on.
Now they're on it. Just starting to come off the blue paint, starting to come in. And just into the top 12 foot. Nice shot for Glenn Howard. John Kawaja right in the hack. And here we go with the hit. Have we got the corner? Just the corner. Close on that one. So we're down to 4 rocks, 2 skip stones. We have two rocks belonging to the Ed Werenich rink, which are to the left of center line and out between the house and the hog line. And Russ Howard says he wants to put one in the top 8 foot. Trying to utilize the only guards he has.
Well, pretty well, you know, that's all he can do, and hope Eddie can't find the rings on his last rock.
Oh, they're going to change. They're going for the button.
They're going short, I mentioned.
Okay.
On the second line. See if Eddie can feel.
Well, I think what they want is they want Ed to throw a hit on his first one, and then having them to throw a draw on his last
second
one.
Hurry, hard! Hurry, guys, way back, way back. Come on now, as far as we go, Kenny, come on.
I don't think Ed's going to be fooled on this one. He'll certainly take it off.
They could have got that rock even with that yellow short rock. They might have jammed on it and tightened up the rings a bit at the short one.
Give
I
Russ
think so,
maybe a little
yes,
something behind it.
The rock needed to be another 2 feet.
Are we
Get
gonna?
deeper into the rings, and therefore Eddie's peel, which he would have thrown the out turn, might have jammed on the other yellow one, giving Russ a draw around that might have been a little tighter to the button.
Well, now we'll see if the old adage is true. Can skips peel?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
it made the guard a little better.
There really was no double there. He hit that as good as he could.
We're down to 2 shots. Russ Howard is going to try to come behind the guard and put it in the 8-foot ring, and then Eddie Werenich, I guess, will have to try to draw the button, guys.
Well, Eddie's got to be thinking draw all the way here.
Well, Eddie's thrown enough draws this game that he certainly checked it out, wait a few times, so I imagine he'll be awful close.
Well, you couldn't want more excitement, Ted. An extra end for the Ontario Labatt Tankard. Final stone here for Russ Howard. And it's an in-turn draw going for the top 8-foot ring. Says he's light from his hand.
Come on! Hurry, hard! Hard!
They're sweeping it for all they're worth. All 3 guys out.
Hard! Hard, guys! Ball it now.
I think he'd like to leave this half open, just give him a little piece of food.
Well, Ed's going to play the hit on it.
I think he left it almost wide open for him. It's a big piece of cheese, although it's Eddie's in turn, and I think Russ is counting on this.
I'd like to have it over maybe 3 or 4 inches, but I'm sure he'd like to have left that open a bit. I think he'd rather have Eddie throwing the hit than the draw.
So, Ted, why is Eddie throwing the hit?
too close to the forefoot.
Ed Werenich has to hit this stone out and stay to win the Ontario Labatt Tankard in his 18th appearance in the Tankard. A lot of pressure, but I'd sure love to have the chance to do it. Here's the throw by Ed Werenich. Sweeping hard all the way. Whoa. They're off. Right off, they said. It's coming over. Coming over. He's got the corner. He's rolling. Stays in the rings, and Eddie Werenich, a 9-8 victor and an extra in. Ted, you couldn't want any more excitement than that. Just incredible. Ted, I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for the opportunity to work with you. What more excitement could we ask for?
Well, it was a great finish, and we've certainly had an exciting week up here. I want to thank Mark and everybody else for their comments.
So Ron Walsh and Ted Brown, thanks very much for listening to us. We hope we've given you as much information as we can on perhaps one of the most exciting tankards I've ever seen. 9-8 for Eddie Werenich, and people counted them out. They came through the tiebreaker, the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and then to defeat the Russ Howard, trying to win it for the 5th time in a row. Wow.
What a finish, eh?
Thanks, Ted. You sure did.